Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
Wednesday, the 5th of February 2025 has dawned and it's just gone 8 minutes after 6. Good morning and welcome to it, the Wednesday edition of the Morning Brief here on SAFM. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane and I'm here to deliver your Morning Brief. Come, let us spend the next 3 hours together informing and engaging each other and sharpening each other's perspectives on the key issues of the day. Here's what's coming up on the show over the next 3 hours. We'll find out a bit more about Joel Pollak. And Joel Pollak is the man that the U.S. President Donald Trump is reportedly likely to pick as the U.S. ambassador to South Africa, right? So we are told, and we learn from his writings, that he is against so-called race-based policies and wants this country to align with the West on such issues as the Israeli-Palestine issue, China, as well as relations with Russia. So basically, we should align with the West, and by the West, mainly the United States of America. In fact, he's unflinchingly told News 24 in an interview, and I quote here, "Generally, when you look at the political debate in South Africa, it is very much about redressing the past, and the world is tired of it. The world has moved on. They want to know how South Africa will build a better future." End quote. So those words attributed to Joel Pollak in an interview with News 24 in relation to what they call race-based policies. So we'll talk to former DA leader Tony Leon, former ambassador as well, who knows Joel Pollak very well, and will join me at the top of 7 to unpack what Joel Pollak's likely appointment as ambassador to South Africa would signal about how relations between the two countries would play out over the next 4 years. So that is the conversation we will have with the former DA leader Tony Leon. That's at the top of the hour 7. Then we'll have a strong focus on the city of Johannesburg throughout the show, really. A few aspects that we'll be focusing on. First, we'll tell you about its crumbling water infrastructure. I mean, you see it everywhere if you drive around the city of Johannesburg. And we are told 26% of the city's water infrastructure is in a critical condition, but the money to fix it just isn't enough. With a 32 billion rand needed for infrastructure renewal, and we'll have two takes on that story, on that particular aspect that has to do with the water infrastructure that's leading to all these leaks, the water gushing all over the place, and that will include talking to a Joburg Water senior manager, and that conversation we have it lined up for you at about 10 to 7. Then the second aspect of our focus on Johannesburg we'll tell you how the city is grappling with a growing burial space problem. One of its biggest cemeteries in service since 1956 or thereabouts, the West Park Cemetery in Northcliffe, we are told that it will run out of space. It is expected to reach its capacity by May this year, and there's going to be a lot of changes then in terms of where people are directed for burials after the West Park Cemetery runs out of space. So 4 more months of burial space in West Park Cemetery, and after that the city will have to make another plan. And the city is actually encouraging residents to explore alternatives such as reopening and reusing graves twice or even 3 times, 3 burials, up to 3 burials with the right permissions in one grave. Cremation is the other option, as well as above ground, bear with me here, mausoleums, the word always gives me a bit of it. The above ground mausoleums where several family members can be buried. So we'll talk to the Joburg City Parks and Zoo spokesperson, Jenny Moodley, who will be talking to us at about 8:45. I'd also want to know from you your experiences, if you live in Joburg or in any other city, about the issue of burial space, as well as provision for taking care of cemeteries in cities. I don't think it's an area of service delivery that we focus on quite a lot. We tend to not really pay attention until you need burial space for a loved one. That's when you really find out what the state of cemeteries is in our cities. We hold cities to account for many things, but I don't think we center the conversation around provisioning for burial space. But also even these practices that are being encouraged. Have you and your family turned to those practices, reopening graves, burying 2 people in one grave, or in the case of Johannesburg, they're talking about up to 3 burials in one grave with the right permissions. I must emphasize that that's not automatic, it's not a go-to solution, but with the right permissions, you can open a grave and bury up to 3 people. They've got a bylaw, a draft bylaw that's out about burials and cemeteries, and they're calling for residents to comment on it. So that conversation coming up at about 8:45 with Joburg City Parks and Zoo spokesperson Jenny Moodley. And then in our international feature, our international update in the next few minutes, we'll tell you this. You know how stressed out and even panicked some of us get whenever there's a minor, seismic event in Johannesburg, a minor tremor in Gauteng. We have those quite a few times every year, and we all get into a bit of a panic and are worried. Well, imagine living through anything between 200 and 300 earthquakes and tremors in the space of 48 hours. So we'll tell you how the picturesque island of Santorini in Greece has weathered what is called an earthquake storm in a space of about 48 hours or so, between 200 and 300 minor tremors, but some of them fully fledged earthquakes above 4 on the Richter scale. So we'll tell you about that in the next few minutes at about 6:20. We have all of your regulars logged and loaded, and Musa with your news updates every half hour, Rob Byrne with your traffic every 15 minutes or so, Zaikan is watching your sport throughout the morning, Ndauleng Lechela has your economics, business and market news covered, as well as Sipho Mantula with your Africa update just before 8 a.m. Of course, I'd like to hear from you, your calls on the number 086 000 2032, as well as your WhatsApp voice notes on 061 410 4107. This is SAFM. We are leading the conversations that move us. The first hour of the Wednesday edition of the Morning Brief starts now.
The Daily News Diary on SAFM.
And good morning to you.
Good morning, Thulas.
Yeah, sadly, we're going to start on a sad note. The repatriation of the mortal remains of the soldiers that fell in the DRC. That's your lead story, is it not?
Yes, it is. For today, we do have details as well as analysis on that briefing by the Defence and Military Veterans Minister Angie Motshekga and the Chief of the SANDF in Parliament yesterday, where also some members of Parliament's Defence Portfolio Committee threatened to press for a commission of inquiry. So the SANDF confirmed that the bodies of the 14 South African soldiers killed in Eastern DRC will be repatriated today. In other stories that we have this morning, reaction following U.S. President Donald Trump's proposal for America to take over the Gaza Strip, and Trump said that the U.S. would permanently resettle the Gaza Strip's Palestinian population in other countries in the region. We have expectations ahead of President Cyril Ramaphosa's State of the Nation address tomorrow. Economic growth and job creation are among some of the critical issues, and we know that President Cyril Ramaphosa will use this opportunity tomorrow to outline government's priorities and plans for the year ahead, and also give the nation some feedback on the commitments made last year and in the previous years. The city of Johannesburg, as well as the Rea Vaya bus services, had announced yesterday the resumption of the bus services after 2 bus drivers were fatally shot in separate incidents in Soweto. However, passengers are informed that the buses are still suspended today. Further updates on the situation is expected throughout the day. They were saying yesterday that the law enforcement plans are in place, and this was to ensure the safety and security of the bus drivers, buses, as well as the passengers. And just lastly, Thulas, the 3-day inquiry led by the South African Human Rights Commission investigating the impact of load reduction on poor and historically disadvantaged communities. So some of the stories that we are focusing on.
All right, and thank you for that. That's Ann Musa. She'll keep you updated on the news every half hour here on the Morning Brief.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
At 18 minutes after 6, let's tell you how your weather is looking for this Wednesday. 3 warnings that have been issued by the South African Weather Service. The first one, yellow level 4 warning. It says severe thunderstorms with damaging winds, hail, severe lightning and heavy downpours expected over KwaZulu-Natal, except in the northeast. The second warning, yellow level 2, severe thunderstorms resulting in hail, heavy downpours and strong damaging winds, leading to localized flooding of susceptible areas and roads and localized damage to infrastructure expected over the north and eastern parts of the Eastern Cape, eastern parts of the Eastern Cape, as well as the Highveld and escarpment of Mpumalanga. And the third warning is a yellow level 1 warning. It says damaging wind and waves resulting in difficulty in navigation at sea, and that is expected between Alexander Bay and Cape Agulhas. And the rest of your weather looks like this. Pretoria will be partly cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers with a minimum of 19 and a maximum of 29. Johannesburg, partly cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 18 to 28. Mbombela will see morning fog patches, otherwise partly cloudy with afternoon isolated showers and thunder showers, 20 to 33. Polokwane will be partly cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 19 to 31. Mahikeng will be partly cloudy, 20 to 35. Bloemfontein will be partly cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 20 to 33. Kimberley will be partly cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 21 to 35. George will be partly cloudy with isolated showers and rain from the afternoon, and it will be a minimum of 17 and a maximum of 22. Gqeberha will be partly cloudy with scattered showers and rain, 20 to 26. East London will see morning fog, will have fog in the morning, otherwise cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 22 to 27. Durban will be cloudy with widespread afternoon showers and thunder showers, 24 to 32. Richards Bay will be partly cloudy with scattered afternoon showers and thunder showers, 25 to 36. And finally, Pietermaritzburg will be fine, becoming partly cloudy to cloudy with widespread afternoon showers and thunder showers, 19 to 35.
The National School Nutrition Program and social grants are instrumental in ensuring that children's needs for food and other essential services are met. We need a minimum health promotion levy of 20% on all sugary drinks to support social protection initiatives. Find out more on the next episode of Chew on This at heala.org, HEALA.org, on 30 January from 3 p.m.
So why should I use We Buy Cars if I want to sell my vehicle?
Because We Buy Cars buys cars.
But will I get the right price?
Of course, We Buy Cars buys thousands of vehicles and knows exactly what every vehicle is worth. Their buyers deliver exceptional service and pay you immediately.
And how do I know what they'll pay for my vehicle?
It's easy. Visit webuycars.co.za or use the We Buy Cars app. Follow the simple steps and voila, you'll get a fantastic price for your car. We Buy Cars. Quick, easy, the best.
President Cyril Ramaphosa will on Thursday, 6th of February, deliver the 2025 State of the Nation Address at the Cape Town City Hall. Tune in to the meeting point with Koketso Sachane with a special broadcast from 6 p.m., bringing you blow-by-blow coverage at the 2025 State of the Nation Address. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. The Talking Point with Kathy Mohlahlana.
Did you go to the people? Why is it so hard to communicate directly with people?
It's not hard, Kathy. It's not hard.
No, clearly it is. Clearly it is. If you can't do it, clearly it is very hard.
No, it's not. I'm telling you it's
here
not.
is saying that they have been asking for you to come and speak to the people affected and explain to them and help them understand what you're going to do to resolve the issue.
No, I'm hearing for the first time that SEPA has been asking for me, and he has even gone to the extent of the public protector, which is not necessary. I'm here, and I can even, if SEPA maybe has got some information which we might also assist us, I'm willing to meet him directly.
Dr. Kekana, this conversation is one of those that becomes a bit like a Pandora's box, right?
Kathy Motlatlana on SAFM. Missed it? Find the podcast at safm.co.za. Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
All right, we're still trying to connect with our guest for the international feature that we want to bring you. And it has to do with a series of earthquakes that has really caused widespread concern on the Greek island of Santorini in recent days. We are told anything between 200 and 300 minor tremors, ranging from minor tremors to actually fully fledged earthquakes has occurred in a space of 48 hours. You'll know Santorini. Many of you actually have visited Santorini because many of you can afford to do that, unlike some of us. And you take beautiful pictures in Santorini. But we are told, at least now at this point, it's not really the peak season, for international tourists, but it has had a disruptive effect, this phenomenon of a volcanic, a seismic storm, all these earthquakes and tremors happening. And the result is that many of the residents have had to be evacuated one way or another, either by boat, ferry, or flights actually being arranged, emergency flights being arranged for people to get out of Santorini. And we're told, fortunately, that there's not been significant damage. And there have been no fatalities that have been reported. But it's a massive undertaking, trying to really clear everyone and get everyone out of harm's way. And it's a phenomenon that's quite interesting because, we are told that Santorini lies on what is known as the Hellenic volcanic arc. But the reason for this, what we've been seeing, has little to do with its location there, but has to do, as you know, with tectonic plates. Volcanoes are linked to tectonic plates when they shift and perhaps rub against each other and the like. So it's not only Santorini, it's other islands in that area that have been affected by this earthquake storm that has occurred over the last 2 days. But we are battling to connect with our guests, so we'll try and rearrange and see if we can bring that conversation in the coming days, because it is an interesting phenomenon. But in the meantime, I do want to take one or two of your calls as well as your WhatsApp voice notes. Let me start with Prophet OJ in Mahikeng. Good morning to you, Prophet OJ. You want to talk to me about the DRC this morning?
Yes, good morning, Sister. I'm saved by the blood of God, Jesus Christ. Thulasizwe, let me paraphrase Martin Luther King's quote when he said, justice is the form of human dignity. And I'm wondering how and when we find ourselves as the African continent sitting and negotiating for peace and to avoid this kind of things we are seeing happening in the DRC about our soldiers. Yes, we'll howl and cry and say all sorts of things and cause tensions between Rwanda, South Africa and all that. But at the core, Africa lacks dignity and wisdom to solve the issues that are facing the continent. We cannot be a continent at war all the time when people are dying of hunger on the ground. We have negotiators in the continent, very powerful ones, but one wonder why is this not being effective. And I want to challenge young people in the continent, people like you and other young people. I think it's time now for young people to rise, not even with arms, but to rise with opinions as to how the continent could be shaped.
Thank you for that, Prophet OJ. I agree with everything you said, but except for the part where you say, where you call me a young person. I'm not young by any stretch of the imagination anymore. But I get the point that you are making, Prophet OJ. There have been waves over the decades when it looked promising that we might overcome the spate of unconstitutional changes of government and coups and the likes, but then again you see a regression in some regions of the continent. So, I mean, yeah, you talk about a vision. We did have a vision. We do have a vision that we set for ourselves. The African Union is born of that vision. Agenda 2063 of the AU describes the Africa we want where guns are silenced. But I get the point you are making about the agency that is needed of Africans to ensure that we realize that vision. Mfundo in Cape Town, good morning to you. You want to talk to me about the mooted new ambassador likely to be appointed to South Africa from the United States?
Absolutely, Thulasizwe. Good morning to you and SAFM listeners.
Good morning.
I listened to when you quote one of the statements that this possible upcoming ambassador made. Just to summarize, saying that they are tired of South Africa trying to fix things of the past.
Yep.
And I can tell you, Thulasizwe, it's not only him. There are some South Africans who had benefited during the time of apartheid that now claiming to be tired of South Africa. Even the politicians that are in power claiming to be tired of things of the past. But unfortunately, most of us, majority of South Africans, didn't benefit and now are still unprivileged because of things of the past. And now if the West is tired of South Africa fixing things of the past, they must just leave us as we are.
Yeah.
We can never to us act as if nothing happened and it's gonna be life as usual. It can't be.
Yeah. Yeah.
For the past 30 years of democracy, ANC struggled to balance out the life of the past and the current situation. And now we're moving forward to kind of fixing things, and now the West is coming to tell us that they're tired of South Africa, always talking about the past.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it has left some damage that has caused. The past has left the damage in us, to us.
Yeah, got you. Mfundo, thank you for that. And just to add to what you are saying, Mfundo, for me, the question is always, are we measuring time, the time that has passed since the declaration of formal equality? So you declare that everyone is equal before the law. That's 1994, formal equality and substantive equality. So are you saying to me, we are measuring that it's been 30 years since 1994, or are you measuring the extent to which the redress that you mandated for yourself at the start of this democratic era has been achieved? In other words, are you measuring results in that? Are we seeing a balancing, substantive equality materializing in our society, or are you merely measuring, we are tired, you guys have been talking about redress for the last 30 years? That for me is where the disconnect is. You can have 50 years of a democracy and formal equality and still not have substantive equality, because ours was not revolutionary change. It wasn't change that happened overnight. It was always going to be calibrated carefully and gradual, and it was mandated by the Constitution because of our own unique circumstances. But anyway, I get the point that Mfundo was making about some of what is said about redress in South Africa. Let's check in now with N. Musa with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, families of 3 former employees of the Lily mine in Barberton and Mpumalanga have again accused government of not doing enough to help to retrieve the bodies of their loved ones. The SNDF has confirmed the bodies of the 14 South African soldiers killed in eastern DRC will be repatriated today. They were killed in a fierce fight between the M23 rebels and the Congolese army last month. And the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has welcomed U.S. President Donald Trump's proposal that America intends to take possession of the Gaza Strip and permanently resettle its Palestinian population in other countries in the regions. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Morning. Reminder, no Rio via buses across Joburg. That service remains suspended until further notice. Durban, the Richmond Road is closed at Savannah Hill or Savannah Park, Clarvata area. That is the closure there between Chatsworth and Marion Hill due to protesting. So that's forcing a lot of traffic to divert up Hunts Detman Highway heading up towards Pinetown. So extra delays in that traffic this morning. And very heavy into Cape Town. There are multiple incidents along the N2 corridor. There are crashings on the N2 inbound at Muway near Khayelitsha, before Bunga Avenue at Langa, and around Rapenburg Road in the Pylands area. And in the middle of all of that, there's a broken down vehicle around Borchard's Quarry. So extreme delays from Baden-Powell Drive all the way through towards the M5 highway. It's just heavy all the way through this morning, ducking and weaving around all those incidents. And then the N1 into town, an earlier police incident by Okavango Road is the reason the backlog is right back through to Justenburg side this morning. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Hey Zai, good morning to you. How often does this happen? Why are you laughing? What happened?
I'm already thinking about what you're about to say for some reason.
No, I'm going to play it safe now. I'm playing it safe this morning. How often does it happen that one team scores all the goals in a match, but the match ends in a draw?
I have yet to see something like that.
I don't know.
I don't know
That's
what to
That's
say.
exactly what happened with AmaZulu, right?
Yeah, they really went above and beyond. They scored for themselves. They scored for Chiefs. I don't know what you call this. True sportsmanship? I'm not sure. Anyway, let's go to that match. FNB Stadium. It was very chaotic, by the way. 2-2 the final score. AmaZulu scoring all 4 goals, and despite their generosity, they did fight back. Not enough, though, to secure a win, while Chiefs, they hang on, remaining 5th on the table. Usutu, on the other hand, climbing up to 7th spot in the standings after extending their unbeaten run to 3 matches. And just when you think it's safe to come back for air again, the game between Magesi and Shipper United at the Seshego Stadium suspended due to floodlight and outages, multiple floodlight outages. Both teams and the match commissioner agreed to suspend the match until later, starting from the 21st minute. So hopefully the match will happen today from 12. Meanwhile, Richards Bay pulled off a late comeback. They defeated Marumo Gallants 2-1 at the King Zwelithini Stadium in Umlazi, Durban. Cricket action. MI Cape Town qualified for their first Betway SA20 final, beating rivals Paarl Royals by 39 runs in Qualifier 1 at St. George's Park in Gqeberha last night. Chasing a huge 200 for victory, the Royals replied with 160 in 19.4 overs. The MI Cape Town bowlers sharing the wickets with Kagiso Rabada, Rashid Khan, Corbin Bosch and Trent Bolt, each taking 2. Here's Kagiso Rabada.
So we're glad that we ticked that off. We're not taking anything for granted. Great start by Brian and Riza, and then well followed by our lower order and middle order. Actually, not even lower order, middle order. So, everyone's ready to play, and that's what we saw today, especially with the ball. I thought under pressure we responded well. We've been doing that all tournament, so hopefully we do that in the final.
Golf now, and Kultida Woods, the Thai-born mother of Tiger Woods, who instilled his dominant spirit and encouraged him to wear a red shirt as his power colour, passed away yesterday. Woods announced the death of his 78-year-old mother in a social media post. He did not disclose cause or other details. She was at his indoor Tomorrow Golf League match last week in South Florida, where she lived. And finally, tennis. Tennis South Africa announcing the return of Whoophold international tournaments for the 3rd consecutive year. The season's events will take place in Tshwane from the 16th of February to the 3rd of March at the Tuks Tennis University of Pretoria. And Carlos Alcaraz came through a tough opener against Botish van der Zandschulp at the Rotterdam Open. The top seed Spaniard won 7-6, 3-6, 6-1. We'll serve you more sport. Top of the hour, I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Dowling, good morning to you. Tell me about Alphabet planning to invest some $75 billion in AI expansion.
Morning, Tula. So following last week's tech rout, U.S. tech stocks are under intense scrutiny for their spending plans. Alphabet in particular is facing pressure after announcing a massive $75 billion investment in capital expenditures this year to boost its AI strategy. Now, the investment exceeds Wall Street expectations of about $58.8 billion and has raised eyebrows. Alphabet's capital expenditures for the first quarter is also expected to be higher than predicted, ranging from $16 billion to $18 billion. According to the company's CFO, the investment will focus on technical infrastructure, including servers and data centers, to support the growth of Google services, Google Cloud, and Google DeepMind. Now, looking at its peers, Microsoft announced a $80 billion investment plan for 2025, and Meta announced a plan of up to $65 billion. And now this announcement comes alongside Alphabet's fourth quarter earnings report, which showed a 12% revenue jump, slightly missing analyst expectations, while net income increased by 28%. Cloud revenue was lower than expected at $11.96 billion. However, cloud revenue still grew 30% from the previous year. Now, the mixed bag of earnings led to a decline in Alphabet's stock price in after-hours trading.
In other company news, Ndauling, tell me about UBS's quarter four earnings. You're saying that they've topped analysts' estimates.
That's right, Thulasizwe. The Swiss banking giant reported a higher than expected profit for Q4, but its share fell due to concerns over potential changes to Swiss capital rules. The bank's net profit attributable to shareholders was $770 million, exceeding forecasts as mentioned. This was driven by lower costs, strong revenue, and a solid performance by its investment bank. Despite the positive results, concerns over the bank's buyback plans, which are contingent on no changes to Swiss capital rules, weighed on sentiment. Analysts noted that the results were mixed, with net new assets missing forecasts. Now, UBS's plans to repurchase up to $3 billion of shares in 2025. Well, it plans to repurchase shares of about 3 billion rands in 2025. This, however, subject to no major changes to Swiss bank capital rules. The bank has warned that excessive capital requirements could make the financial sector less competitive. In the meantime, the group expressed confidence in the bank's ability to complete the integration of Credit Suisse by the end of next year and achieve its financial targets this year.
And lastly, Ndauling, please give us our first roundup of market activity for this morning.
So U.S. markets staging a recovery following a slow start to the week. Stocks ticking higher in yesterday's trading session, with the Nasdaq making the most gains there, up 1.3% by the close. Back at home, the JSE also ending the day in the green as equity markets make a comeback. The all share closed over 1% higher, boosted by a 1.4% rise in the industrial 25. So mainly SA Inc. stocks fueling the JSE yesterday. The rand, in the meantime, trading stronger as the rout in emerging markets subsides. It's sitting at 18.69 to the dollar this hour. Sentiment not as upbeat in Asia, though, with stocks mixed, mostly in the red following the tit-for-tat trade action playing out between the US and China.
All right, thank you for that. We'll hear from you in the second hour. That's Ndauling Lechela. Look out for her second update of the morning, and that will be coming up just after 7:30 here on the Morning Brief.
For news on South African industry and mining, Creamer Media's Engineering News and Mining Weekly has you covered. Click through to Creamer Media's Engineering News each day for the latest on the people and companies shaping the energy transition and South African industry. Keep your finger on the critical minerals pulse by visiting Creamer Media's Mining Weekly. For deeper insight, subscribe to the Engineering News and Mining Weekly magazine, out on Fridays. Creamer Media, current, credible, comprehensive.
Are you looking for the best spectacle and sunglass deal? With Specsavers buy one get one offer, you get great value for money. You know you can trust us with over 350 stores nationwide. Get a free pair of branded prescription sunglasses up to 3,200 Rand when you purchase a comprehensive eye test and spectacle frame with lenses on your first pair. Choose from top brands like Police, Hugo, Tommy Hilfiger, Carolina Herrera and more. There really is no reason to go anywhere else. Affordable eye care, Specsavers. T's and C's apply.
Ever stood in front of the fridge hoping for a quick lunch decision only to find nothing? So you just order what you had yesterday. Well, getting your car covered online with Santam is faster than deciding what to have for lunch. It only takes 2 minutes. To switch, visit santam.co.za. Santam, this is freedom.
Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
At 17 minutes to 7, let's tell you this story. Johannesburg Water is grappling with a severe infrastructure crisis. This is according to the city's 2023-2024 annual report. The report shows that nearly 26% of the city's water and sanitation systems are classified as being in critical condition. I've got to give credit to the initial reporting on this story of the Sowetan. Let's bring into the conversation Benoit Leroy, who is the CEO of the South African Water Chamber. Good morning to you, Benoit, and thank you for your time. Are you surprised that things are as dire as described in this annual report? What, a quarter of the city's water and sanitation systems said to be in a critical condition?
Morning to you and the listeners. No, I'm not, because I've been saying this for the last 20 years that we had an unmitigated disaster unfolding because of underinvestment in the infrastructure. But what we have to do is, like I said in the article, is we need to address it. It's very complex, and we really need to support the utility in being able to, they've identified the issues, but it's a matter of how do we bring in the required capacity, not skills, capacity, and the capacity is financial and engineering capacity to sort out what's taken 15, 20 years, and we have to try and sort it out in less than 5 years. That is the dilemma we have, and we knew the longer it takes, the more complex and the more difficult it's going to be to restore.
And has the situation become urgent, Benoit, just from the way that it manifests? One of my biggest frustrations is that when you now have conversations with city authorities, it is very difficult to present a picture, but on a daily basis, you see it as you drive around the city, water gushing everywhere. I don't know how many videos I've taken of pipe bursts that go on for hours, with the hope that at some point will be able to present a body of evidence that says this is critical, this is urgent, it has become an emergency.
Thulasizwe, look, what you're seeing, unfortunately, what you're seeing is the tip of the iceberg, literally. That's not the big water, that's what we call the small water. The big physical losses, which is between 35 and 37%, and I'll tell you where we get the number from, is in actual fact, and that's going into the ground. And this is why we see a flat demand curve, summer and winter. We used to have less demand in winter, more in summer because of the heat. It's fairly flat. And there's no seasonal changes because whatever the system is asking for, be it leaks or demand from consumers, it's the same demand. So what happens is if the demand on the consumer side drops a little bit, the leaks just increase because the system is pressurized constantly. So I know the pressure reducing valves are being addressed so that we can modulate the pressure in the system. But there is some transparency in this because there is a dashboard. There's a Gauteng dashboard that has been led by Department of Water and Sanitation. It's available on the website. Joburg Water, Rand Water, Ekurhuleni and Tshwane are all making this available on a weekly with a summary on a monthly basis. And on the monthly one, you will see that the non-revenue water, the physical leaks, they are being reported. So there's an amount of visibility in the reporting, which means that we're not hiding the issues. We know, but what we're seeing in the streets and the gushing, etc., these are unfortunately the small parts of the problem. The big part is actually into the ground, and that's what we need to address. But we can't address those if you don't address the ones above ground, obviously.
Yeah, and what's your understanding of the situation as far as the big infrastructure, the big water infrastructure is concerned? Your wastewater treatment works as well as the reservoirs across the city.
So the reservoirs, I think it was around about 85. It's a big number. It's a big city. It's a big number. and I think roughly a quarter of them, 20 watt, are targeted for repairing, and it's only those because there's a funding issue. So there's not enough money to restore them. But these, it's like potholes. Potholes come out when the subsurface of the road has collapsed. It's no use filling the pothole because you're not sorting out the foundations. It's the same thing with the reservoirs. In actual fact, putting plasters on it is not what's going to be done. They need to be refurbished from inside. But if one maintains these like roads every 5 to 7 years, the problem doesn't come. So we're being reactive. We have no choice. And the thing is, there's not enough money in, let's say, in the cash flows to Joburg Water to actually address these adequately. And that's where the private sector comes in. But obviously, we're only happy to do that under certain conditions, and the conditions are not certain at the moment. So these are the things we have to work through. But it's quite major. But it's not only just repairing what's in the ground. Is we have to increase the capacity because the city has got double the population in the last 30 years. So we've got to increase the capacity, and we're putting new capacity on the perimeter of the system. But the old system that is 40, 50, 80 years old in the center is in actual fact what's causing a lot of the problems. And we see this. So we have to not only repair them, we have to replace, and we have to increase the pipe diameters. We have to increase the amount of reservoirs. We don't have enough storage in the system. We need 48 hours and we don't have that. And that's why small outages cause major issues. And once the system runs dry, you have to recharge it, and that's where the problem comes in. And also, Rand Water has to decrease its supply, and it's decreasing it from 1,800 to 1,350 megalitres a day by September, because that is the legal framework from the Department of Water and Sanitation with the water use license, and that is going to mean that the systems will start running dry on a more frequent basis, and that we have to mitigate. So we can't change the input volume. So what we're going to have to do, we have to sort out these systems, and unfortunately, we can't do them in a couple of months. This is the reality we face.
All right. Thank you for that sobering reality check there. That's Benoit Leroy, who is the CEO of the South African Water Chamber. And I'll be in conversation shortly with Victor Chewe, a senior manager for infrastructure planning and asset management at Joburg Water.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. If you're just joining us, a reminder, there are no Ria Vaya buses across the Joburg region this morning. They remain suspended going into day 2. No buses yesterday, no buses again today. The N1, pretty clear through Pretoria, but you'll hit a wall of traffic from Brockfontein all the way down to New Road. Just south of Durban in the Savannah Park Clavata area, the Higginson Highway, Richmond Road, if you like that Mike 1 route, is closed down because of protesting. So there's a lot of pressure both around the Marion Hill side and particularly around the Chatsworth side as you come up the Higginson Highway and realise that it's closed, and then you have to divert up Hans Detman Highway. So there's a lot of pressure sort of out of Chatsworth direction, Pinetown via Hans Detman this morning. It's always a busy route, but it's even busier this morning. Bit of traffic pressure on the M4 up to the Jacobs area as well. And Cape Town's N2 was a dramatic start to this Wednesday. Crashes at Khayelitsha inbound are being cleared. A crash at Rappenberg Road, a big crash in front of Pinelands is being cleared. But we're still dealing with one on the side of the road in front of Langa. So really, you've got a big backlog of traffic this morning. N2 from Baden-Powell Drive through to the R300. That's passing Khayelitsha. And then from the airport runway all the way through to Mowbray Main Road. Behind that, the M5 is back to Parkwood Retreat sort of area. That gives you an idea of how heavy things are. And the N1 this morning, after an incident out at around Okavango Road in the Brackenfell area, the N1 is a super heavy backlog. Queues from sort of Justenburg territory, right out in the farmlands area, from Justenburg right through to Kuburg interchange. Looks like a busy midweek Wednesday around Cape Town. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Are you looking for the best spectacle and sunglass deal? At Specsavers, get a free pair of branded prescription sunglasses up to 3,200 Rand. Affordable eye care, Specsavers. T's and C's apply.
During Ford Blue Sky offers, you can get a new Ford Territory Ambiente from just 6,199 per month, including our optional service plan. Only when financed through Ford Credit. 10% deposit, primeless 5.25%, 40% residual. Visit your trusted Ford dealer today for Blue Sky offers, where our Ford Family Guarantee comes standard. Limited time offer while stocks last. Ford Credit is a registered credit provider and an authorized financial services provider. T&Cs apply.
You are listening to the Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
All right, let's continue our focus on the city of Johannesburg and its water woes, water infrastructure in particular. I'm joined now by Victor Chewe, who is Senior Manager for Infrastructure Planning and Asset Management at Joburg Water. Good morning to you and thank you for your time. We'll get to the plans and strategies that you have to respond to the situation, but I think we'll make great progress if we agree what we are dealing with. I suggest to you that we are dealing with a disaster that is not imminent, that is not waiting to happen, that is actually unfolding right before our eyes in as far as the water infrastructure across Gauteng, across Johannesburg is concerned. Do you agree with that suggestion?
Thank you to Thulasizwe and thank you to the listeners. Good morning. Thulasizwe, not necessarily a disaster, to call it a disaster. I would maybe relatively call it a crisis or challenge that we're facing with our water supply system. And I think with putting all our efforts and the plans and they succeed, I think we're going to avert or reduce the impact of this crisis. It's not really a disaster. That's what I can say for now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Fair enough. I'll take that. But tell me which areas of this crisis are most urgent for you. Is it in the bulk in the major infrastructure such as the wastewater treatment works, the likes of the reservoirs, or is what my previous guest was talking about small water, the pipelines, the pipe bursts and reticulation and the likes?
Okay. Thank you, Trustees, again. The challenge is varied. I think the previous speaker, what Mendy was talking about was water demand management. And there we have to reduce the demand. As you know, we've got limited supply from water vow as well as the limit in terms of what groundwater can abstract. That we have to reduce. And the main challenge that we have is which we have to differentiate between non-revenue water and water and physical water loss, is the physical water losses. Some of it coming from pipe bursts, some of it coming from illegal connection, water theft, and so on and so forth. And that we are addressing. We've got a project in place where we're putting in sensors, which will help us locate leaks quicker and be able to fix them so that we keep the physical water loss on our part, as well as we inspecting our reticulation wherever we find illegal connection with the assistance of JMPD. We moving in and cutting off those supply. And I think as we continue doing this, we're going to see a reduction in the amount of water that we are losing. The second question that you asked for wastewater treatment works, that is again something else. There we've improved technology as well as the stringent demand from the department in terms of the quality of effluent that we discharge in the river. Mm-hmm. We actually need to update or upgrade our technology and so that we are able to discharge effluent that is compliance in accordance with the license. And with all those, we've got plans in place. It's not a one-day fix. It's a process. Eventually, we'll get there. Thank you.
How are you impacted by this gap between what you need to do in terms of fixing those challenges that you just outlined and the funding that is needed? We're told you need some 32.5 billion rand to catch up on renewal of infrastructure.
Yes, so the 32 billion rand is what we are telling our shareholder, that in order to address all these various challenges that we have with regard to infrastructure, we, in 10 years, if we give ourselves a target of addressing everything in 10 years, we will need about 32.5 billion. And with that, we're telling our shareholder that at least if we can get capital funding to amount of 3.2 billion, of course, within the constraints and within the availability, we will be able to address all infrastructure challenges that we have, including all the backlogs.
You will face some people who will say, given the constraints that you just talked about in the fiscus, the 32.5 billion rand that you want may only come in the medium to long term. Right now, you will face people who will say you could be collecting more if you didn't have what you euphemistically call non-revenue water. This is the water that is lost due to leaks and the likes, people connecting illegally to the water systems. What stops you from tackling that with much more vigor than you've done until now?
With regard to revenue collection, Thulasizwe, we've actually improved. We are now able to read all our meters within a month. And the collection ratio, of course, we've set a target of ourselves of about 80% in terms of the water that we are selling. And we are matching very close to our target. Of course, we need customers also to be honoring the bills and settling them on time. I think on that one we're pushing towards the target of 80%, and in terms of meter readings, like I say, we almost 99% read all the meters within a month.
Sure, I get that, but the other element of what you in the industry call non-revenue water are these leaks that we see everywhere, where it's clean, potable water, and you know it breaks your heart as you see it flowing freely on the streets. That element is many people would say is a low-hanging fruit that you should easily be tackling.
Exactly, Tulani. So what you're talking about is water demand management, and we've got various interventions that we are implementing at the moment. One of it with low-hanging fruit is pressure management. As you know, Joburg has got an undulating terrain or topography, and with that comes the challenge of managing pressure. In our system, we do have what we call pressure-reducing valves, but sometimes they fail. And we have to, just like any machine, at some time it fails, and we have to fix them. But we have a pressure management program that we're rolling out citywide, and for that we putting in smart controller. So at night, when we're expecting people to be asleep, we're reducing the pressure, and then in the morning, bring it up to a level where the supply will be adequate in terms of pressure. So there's various interventions that we're doing in terms of water demand management, and one of it, which I didn't mention in first time you asked me, is also communication, where we're trying to educate our community to give water the value that it deserves, and to adopt water conservation activities,
right?
Because that, if they're doing that, and we're also doing on our side in terms of management together.
Well, your efforts would be helped a great deal, Victor, if you made it easy for people to report leaks. I was saying earlier on the number of videos that I've taken where I've seen that this needs to be attended to urgently, but you don't seem to have a system that says very quickly, I can send this and report it.
Yes, we are learning. We've got systems already in place. We've got call centers, we've got social media pages where people can log calls, and we respond.
Right.
But on top of that, we also will be developing an app where people can upload pictures and information, and then we'll quickly be responding to that.
Let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you. That's Victor Chewe, who is the Senior Manager for Infrastructure Planning and Asset Management at Joburg Water. Let's check in now with N. Musa with the latest news.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30760. Now that's good news.
In our top stories, Lily mine victims' families speak on government's disregard ahead of SONA, and Rea Vaya bus commuters urged to make alternative arrangements. Good morning. Families of 3 former employees of the Lily mine in Barberton, Mpumalanga, have again accused government of not doing enough to help to retrieve the bodies of their loved ones. 9 years ago today, Pratin Kambule, Yvonne Mnisi and Solomon Yarenda were trapped underground when the mine collapsed. They had been in a container used as a lamp room at the time. The families will commemorate the incident today. The spokesperson Heri Mazibuko says they are not expecting much on the matter from President Cyril Ramaphosa's State of the Nation address tomorrow.
As we heading to the State of the Nation address, as the families were not expecting the president to mention the issue. However, even if he mentioned the issue, all we need is action upon the issue, of which we believe even if he can say a few words, that will be it. There will be no progress or action taken after that. There were many sonars that have passed. The issue of Liliman has never been entertained.
The SANDF has confirmed the bodies of the 14 South African soldiers killed in eastern DRC will be repatriated today. They were killed in a fierce fight between the M23 rebels and the Congolese army last month. Meanwhile, the Army Chief General Rudzani Mapwanya says a lack of proper training is not the cause of the deaths of the soldiers. He has attributed their deaths to indirect fire. He was party of Defence Minister Angie Motshekga's delegation that briefed Parliament's Portfolio Committee on the situation in eastern DRC.
There had been exchange of fire between DRC and Rwanda. That exchange of fire was said to have been initiated by the forces that had been in the base, that is at Goma Airport, the FRDC elements. These are not the elements that were deployed outside the base. They were deployed just in the base, but they had never utilized that. And when they utilized that multiple rocket launcher towards Rwanda, the Rwandese responded.
The Soweto Electricity Crisis Committee and the United Front says load reduction reflects the failure of government and Eskom to supply electricity at a rate that meets the needs of masses. They said this at the 3-day load reduction inquiry, which the South African Human Rights Commission is leading in Sandton, Johannesburg. The aim is to investigate the impact of load reduction on poor and historically disadvantaged communities. Eskom has attributed load reduction to illegal connections. The United Front's Dr. Trevor Ngwane made oral submissions at the inquiry.
If you don't upgrade the infrastructure in a township in Gauteng, where there's a lot of, must admit, people giving back in migration, can you see? Yeah. And then the substation, the transformer is left. Not only is it left in the same condition, is not even maintained, you're going to have problems. And then you use that, your own failures, as a justification for load reduction.
Commuters in Johannesburg will be forced to find alternative transport yet again this morning. This after Rea Vaya told them that its bus services were still suspended until further notice. The suspension follows the fatal shooting of 2 bus drivers in separate incidents in Soweto on Monday evening. Puseletso Mokwena reports.
Johannesburg commuters have been urged to find alternative mode of transport as Rea Vaya bus operations continue to be suspended. The bus operations were halted on Tuesday morning after 2 of its drivers were fatally shot on Monday evening. The drivers were gunned down and shot multiple times by unknown men within 10 minutes from each other in Soweto. One driver was shot in Mapedla, the other driver was shot in Protea Lane.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has welcomed U.S. President Donald Trump's proposal that America intends to take possession of the Gaza Strip and permanently resettle its Palestinian population in other countries in the regions. But Palestinians had previously rejected the proposal. Egypt and Jordan also say they will not donate some of their territory to house relocated Palestinians. The BBC's Tom Bateman reports.
They are a fundamental shift in the entire United States position. President Trump saying 2 things basically, that the entire population of Gaza should be removed, or he says resettled outside of Gaza. That will be interpreted by Palestinians and Arab nations, of course, as a forcible transfer of expulsion. For the US to take possession and for it to be rebuilt in what his officials say would be at least a 15-year process. Under international law, any proposal proposal or plan to forcibly transfer populations. It is illegal.
Recapping the top story, families of 3 former employees of the Lily mine in Barberton and Mpumalanga have again accused government of not doing enough to help to retrieve the bodies of their loved ones. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Those were the top stories for this hour. Don't miss out on a possible car insurance saving. SMS out to 30754 for a quote. Outsurance, where you always get something out.
February may be a short month, but with Outsurance, your car insurance savings could be big. Get a quote, and if Outsurance can't beat your car insurance premium, ask them for 500 Rand cash. And make that 1,500 Rand cash if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. Get monthly savings on your car insurance or cash in your pocket. Either way, you win. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. With Outsurance, you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Morning, some unusual delays coming to Joburg out of the Vaal this morning. Now 59 from Swartkopies Road, queuing up into the Reading interchange territory. Mike 1's very heavy as well. Gold Reef City all the way through to Oxford Road in the Parktown area. And if you leave Blue Hills in Midrand these days, it's a mission and a half. Loads of lights out on Olifantsfontein Road. So Blue Hills towards the highway's heavy, and loads of lights out around Kyalami. So Blue Hills down through Crowthorne and Kyalami on your way towards Woodmead, heavily backed up as well. Durban's Richmond Road closed at Savannah Park. That's causing a big backlog. That's protesting. So that protest closure effectively blocking the road between Chatsworth and Marion Hill, forcing a lot of delay in that area, queuing up on the Higginson Highway out of Chatsworth and then all the way up Hunstedman Highway, looking quite heavy as the alternative as well. Crash before Spaghetti Junction. The N2 South is slow. And Cape Town, very busy this morning on all the highways. Volumes are up, high volumes, plus some rain, a few spits and spots of rain this morning, and it's all just solid. The N1 from Justenburg is the back of the queue right through to Kuba. Get a change. N2's heavy from Khayelitsha. M5, here's also an idea of an indication of how heavy it is. M5 is backing up from the Retreat Parkwood side all the way up towards the N2 highway. Give yourself extra time to get through the traffic and get through safely. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
A very good morning to you in your SFM Sports headlines. It's soccer action with Amazulu co-coach Arthur Zwane saying that they are a work in progress after gifting Kaizer Chiefs 2 goals in a dramatic draw. And in rugby news, the young halfback Bernard van der Linde is to join Bath. We'll have the details around 7:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
10 minutes after 7. Welcome to the second hour of the Morning Brief on this Wednesday morning. Let me tell you quickly what's coming up on the show. My conversation with Tony Leon in the next few minutes. We'll be talking about Joel Pollak, the man that we are told the U.S. President Donald Trump is likely to pick as U.S. ambassador to South Africa. And we are told that man, Joel Pollak, is against the so-called race-based policies and believes that South Africa should be aligning with the West on issues such as the U.S., Israel, and relations with China and Russia. So that conversation coming up over the next few minutes. As you'll know, tomorrow President Cyril Ramaphosa takes to the podium at the City Hall in Cape Town to deliver the State of the Nation address. We'll give you a preview of that and how issues of diplomacy, international relations, and trade are likely to play and be more prominent in this year's SONA than in previous State of the Nation addresses. And then we'll be talking just before 8 a.m. To the Portfolio Committee on Higher Education, the chairperson there, Deboho Letsie, and we'll be talking about the state of play in as far as preparedness and readiness of higher education institutions and some challenges that they face, including student debt and overcrowded kitchens and lecture halls. So that's a flavor and a sampling of what's coming up within this hour. Your call's an integral part of it all. Give me a call. The number to dial 086 000 2032. Your WhatsApp voice notes to 061 410 4107. This is SAFM. We are leading the conversations that move us. The second hour of the Wednesday edition of the Morning Brief starts now.
Whether you're having a morning or a morning, you woke up like this or like this. Mornings love McDonald's. So choose happy and enjoy a short filter coffee for only R14.90 at McDonald's. What's not to?
Our story is a South African story.
Anchored in the belief that it takes all of us to build a country that thrives.
To educate our children for a brighter future. To care for our health and well-being.
To nurture our environment to sustain future generations. And to transform and build a stronger nation.
When no one is left behind. Inspiring each other to succeed. Anglo-American.
In the Arena is a docu-series that takes an in-depth look at the life and career of the legendary tennis player Serena Williams, offering a behind-the-scenes glimpse into her journey, both on and off the court. It explores her rise to tennis dominance, challenges, and personal experiences. Do not miss out on a great story of incredible impact. Catch In the Arena on Saturdays at 3 p.m. on SABC3. Alternatively at 9 p.m. on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 on Saturdays and Thursdays. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
V up your 2025 with Vodacom Business and Galaxy AI. Save up to 20,000 Rand with trade-in when you pre-order the new Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra 256 gig on a Red Business 1.5 gig plan for just 1,539 Rand per month over 24 months. Enhance your deal with the Samsung Galaxy Watch 7 eSIM for 69 Rand extra per month. Available in-store and online. Further together. Vodacom Business.
February could be the month to celebrate love and savings on your car insurance premium. Get a quote, and if Outsurance can't beat your car insurance premium, ask them for 500 Rand cash. And make that 1,500 Rand cash if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. Get monthly savings on your car insurance or cash in your pocket. Either way, you win. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. With Outsurance, you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
All right, it's good to be in your company this morning. Let's see, we're battling a little bit to get a hold of Tony Leon, but we'll see if we can connect with him and see if we can bring you that conversation. But in the meantime, focus on the State of the Nation address now. And President Cyril Ramaphosa will deliver the State of the Nation address in Cape Town tomorrow. As usual, there are expectations from all corners of society. The president's speech comes at a time when the country is faced with new issues on the geopolitical front, while domestic challenges like crime, unemployment, and others remain. Let's speak to Nkosi Khulule Nyembezi, who is a political analyst who joins me now on the line. Good morning to you, Nkosi Khulule, and thank you for your time. I don't suppose that we've seen the international relations, diplomatic relations, and trade element of the State of the Nation address being as critical as it is right now. That is what is that what you expect will be the key focus when the president delivers the speech tomorrow?
Yes, of course, because we come from a 2024 period where there was a wave of elections, the largest number globally, and that brought new governments. And so it means that we have a reset in terms of our international relationship, including with our trading partners, as those elected governments also redefine their approach into working with other countries. And as South Africa, we've got this spotlight as the host of the G20 summit later this year, meaning that we have got these regular interactions with those countries. We must make that to work for our benefit.
So how big a stage is it then for the president to fully articulate our positions on the, contemporary issues playing themselves out, the relationship with the United States, our involvement in the DRC and the likes?
First, by continuing to emphasize the benefits of what's happening internally. We have got a government of national unity that was formed with quite a speed, and so it brings hope about South Africa in terms of improvement in governance, improvement in our regulations, providing electricity, as in like stopping the load shedding and the likes, including our international rating by the international rating agencies as an investment destination. So this government of national unity flavor should be something that we wave the flag to say we are attractive. Then it should be about emphasizing those international multilateral approaches to trade, to peace and security, to development, because also we are part of the expanding BRICS forum, which means it's all about working out on the solutions and the alternatives in a world that is now being characterized by nationalism and narrow interests.
How much cohesion do you expect, Nkosi Khulule, in the president's message, given the processes that you and I know about that always precede a State of the Nation address, being, when the ANC governed on its own, the ANC's January 8 statement, its NEC Lekgotla, then followed by a cabinet Lekgotla. The ANC part has remained, but the Lekgotla part, which is about fine-tuning and inputs into the State of the Nation address, now comes from a diverse government of national unity that has not always had the right levels of cohesion over the last few months.
Well, if indeed the State of the Nation contents come from the different ministries and different departments, we can hope to see a quilt in terms of the messaging if they originate from the different ministries and departments, so that when we speak about the issue of justice and the wheels of justice rolling, so that they can ensure that we arrest and prosecute and jail people involved in corruption and other law breaking, that must have a flavor from that department. If we talk about agriculture, we talk about communications, it should reflect on that. The good thing is that we do have a policy base and a number of promises that were made previously, whether it's in election manifestos of these parties or it's in government, other State of the Nation addresses. The big part is to convert all of that into workable plan of action that is integrated so that the left hand knows what the right hand should do. So you could say we wouldn't expect a lot of new announcements, but more practicalization of what we already know about.
So based on the promises that were made when the statement of intent was signed between these political parties, what are your expectations in terms of areas of priority? Let me, by way of, perhaps pushing the conversation forward, my sense has always been that you can clearly pinpoint that we have one or two or three top priorities, but it seems to me that there's now one overarching priority. We just don't have the money to deal with all the other priorities. The budget cuts are cutting and cutting deep in many aspects of society, including these areas of crisis we've been talking about.
We must see the arrest of wasteful expenditure. We must see the optimal utilization of the resources, the limited resources that we have. And I think that can take us somewhere, because one of the biggest outcry is the wasteful expenditure, the corruption, the leakages, maladministration. So, for example, if we could work in terms of the recommendations of the Auditor General in terms of what we should improve on, we can achieve a lot in terms of gaining our success. Of course, there are these priorities now, like climate change, our exposure to inclement weather. We see the droughts, we see the floods, we see the government in all the three levels must be able to work with that, because it's going to be emergencies. And of course, we talk about the issues like the VAT exemption on food and other necessities, that we must make bold steps because the basket is indeed eroded because of high inflation. And then we talk about other areas of cooperation like transport, whether it's railways or the roads. Then the government must able to move with speed with that, so that passenger railway, as well as with goods, they all work, because those are the kind of things that are going to improve the lives of ordinary people immediately as we work on the long-term issues. Right. But I could also emphasize that we need the government, the president, to include all sectors, not just the big businesses that they go to Davos with, but trade unions and civil society, because some of the solutions are going to come from grassroots and from civil society organizations.
Right. Thank you for your insights this morning. That's Nkosi Khulule Nyembezi, a political analyst.
We definitely know what good insurance is. Our insurance don't delay when it comes to any claims. If something happens to one of our vehicles on the road, service delivery is the main thing.
They make sure that you are a satisfied customer from the beginning to the end.
It's definitely a win-win with our insurance.
Switch to Business Outsurance today, and you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium. SMS quote to 43328. That's quote to 43328 to switch and save today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
You are listening to the Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
23 minutes after 7. Let's turn to the conversation with Tony Leon now, the former leader of the DA and former ambassador. Joel Pollack, we are told, the man that the U.S. President Donald Trump is likely to pick as U.S. ambassador to South Africa, is said to be against so-called race-based policies. This is according to a report by News 24. In recent times, Pollack has also been quoted and has written and saying that this country must abandon what he calls race-based policies and align with the U.S. on Israel and China if it is to continue to benefit from aid and special trade arrangements. Let's speak to Tony Leon now, who joins me on the line. Good morning to you. Thank you for your time. So, you know Joel Pollack quite well. Let me ask you, what would his appointment communicate about the U.S. president's objectives in relation to the relationship with South Africa?
Yeah, good morning. Joel Pollack used to work for me in 2000, and about 20 years ago, actually. He was my chief speechwriter for 3 or 4 years, and he was very smart and articulate. But obviously, I'm not. I don't exactly follow his politics in all respects. So, I think I read the interview, obviously, and Joel's a very clever chap. That he's got a very transactional view or very specific view on how South Africa, if it's to enjoy a good relationship with America, needs to comport itself. And I think that's all of a piece. And I really don't know whether he's going to be Donald Trump's ambassador here, but there's speculation. I think it's all of a piece with what you would call the Trump trade. That's how Trump views the world. And we're seeing that not just in respect of South Africa, we're seeing that in respect of Mexico, Canada, China, a lot of places a lot closer to America's core interests than we are. But I think that's how the U.S. is going to conduct its foreign policy. And its aid policy is, as Joel Pollack indicated in that interview in News 24.
Yeah, so there's a bit of emphasis on so-called race-based policies, and the pressure there, I suppose, is summed up in the quote that I took a bit earlier on from that interview, where Joel Pollack is quoted as saying, generally, when you look at the political debate in South Africa, it is very much about redressing the past, and the world is tired of it. Reading that and anticipating the possibility of his appointment to South Africa, how should Pretoria be responding and gearing itself up for the relationship and how it will unfold over the next 4 years?
Well, what I would say, which I think is incontestably true, is that it's going to be very different from the relationship in the past. I mean, notwithstanding in the last ambassadorial term under Mr. Ruben Biggerty, there was this big spat over the Lady R ship. Generally, the ambassador and the U.S. embassy kept a fairly low profile on South African politics. They did not offer a view, and they didn't make any conditional attachments to things like aid and so on, the PEPFAR scheme. I think that's going to change, and I think it's mature politics and realpolitik, if you like, to see that this is a very different world. I'm not saying it's going to be an easy one, but it's certainly not business as usual or business as it was before.
What do you make of this, I don't know, I don't want to say sudden obsession, but there does seem to be quite a major focus on domestic policy choices that South Africa has made, constitutional imperatives that South Africa has to redress its past. What do you make of that being a key focus of the United States in its foreign policy towards South Africa?
Yes, so I don't know if it is a key focus of the United States towards South Africa. I think there are bigger fish for the new American administration to fry than South Africa's domestic politics. And I think where there is going to be some clash of interests is over aspects of our foreign policy. You mentioned Israel. I think, as you know, the first foreign visitor Trump received was the Prime Minister of Israel. We've taken a very antagonistic position on Israel. We've taken a very hostile position to U.S. policy on Israel, for example. So that, I think, is going to be lead to some tensions in the relationship. Then, of course, well, and I think we saw it with the Trump whisperer this week, Elon Musk. I think where redress policies here, and obviously not, we can debate how effective they've been and who's the beneficiaries, has been in the frame. Not so much because the United States government per se is affected by them, but the very outsized influencer, the Trump whisperer Elon Musk, is affected because of Starlink. Now, we know that Starlink will give broadband access to many people who are currently deprived of internet access, especially in rural areas. It's very cheap, it's very effective, satellite connectivity, dial up the internet that way. It operates in Zimbabwe, it operates in Botswana, it's come to Zambia. It hasn't come here because of the requirement that 30% of the equity of Starlink will be handed over to BE interests or to some equity equivalent scheme. And Musk has resisted that, and it was Elon Musk this week who actually entered this debate, if you like, between South Africa and America by saying, why do you have race-based requirements for company ownership in South Africa? He asked that directly to Cyril Ramaphosa. Now, President Ramaphosa phoned him, which I think tells you how much influence Musk has that he gets a phone call from the President of South Africa, an individual citizen in America. And I don't know what happened in that call, but I still know we don't have Starlink here, and that is an impediment. So I think the government of South Africa is going to have to say, well, how much does this matter to us, or are we prepared to give something up in order to have transactions with companies like Starlink? But that does get international attention or American attention because those are American-owned companies and technologies.
All right. Thank you for your time and your insights this morning. That's Tony Leon, who is the former leader of the DA and also former ambassador. Brings us to 7:30. Let's check in with N. Musa with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, non-profit organization Save South Africa has called for tangible solutions to the country's high unemployment, which officially stood at 32.1% but 45.5% among the youth in last year's third quarter. Families of 3 former employees of the Lily mine in Barberton in Mpumalanga have again accused government of not doing enough to help to retrieve the bodies of their loved ones. And commuters in Johannesburg will be forced to find alternative transport yet again this morning. Rea Vaya bus services are still suspended until further notice. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Northwest first up, the N4 at Bapong, Majikaneng closed. If you're driving between Pretoria and Rustenburg, that is going to have you delayed and diverted. That is protesting right in that central Bapong, Majikaneng area. And also, staying in the Northwest, Sunway on the Funnerhof extension. There's some protesting there. So if you move between Pretoria and Hartbeespoort, you may well find yourself being disrupted around that set of burning tyres as well. Joburg crash on the R59 north at Reading interchange, causing a backlog from Swartkoppies Road. The Mike 1 stays really bad from Gold Reef City right through to Oxford Road in Parktown this morning. A lot of pressure around Durban's Clavata and Savannah Park area. The protesting erupting early on the Richmond Road. That is disrupting traffic between Marion Hill and Chatsworth. Of course, a lot of traffic using that way to get up towards Pinetown. It's forcing a lot of delay up Hunstedman Highway, which is the obvious alternative route. The M2, pretty heavy from the M7 up towards Westwood Mall. The M7 Queensborough down to Bel Air and Wakesley is a long queue. And a fatal crash coming out of Hillcrest this morning on Old Main Road at the M13 highway. That's quite heavy. And Cape Town, midweek Wednesday, volumes are up. There is some rain about the city as well. On-off rain today. Everything on a go slow. Make sure you've got plenty of time to get through. Just give you an idea of how bad it is. The N1 queues from Justenburg side. The M5's at Retreat, Grassy Park. That's how heavy that is. And there's even quite a backlog this morning up the R300 from Delft, moving through to Brackenfell. You can normally get through okay this time of morning, but not today. Just an indication again of how slow it is right the way across the Greater Cape Town area. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, good morning once again. So we've been hearing a bit from Arthur Zwane and Amazulu, in the wake of their unparalleled generosity.
I know. It's not every day you hear that a team scored 4 goals and still didn't win.
They are working on not being so. They are a work in progress towards being not so generous.
Yes, it sounds like generous with some potholes. Anyway, let's go to that game. Kaizer Chiefs, Amazulu battling 2-2 was the final score at FNB Stadium. Yes, a match full of drama. The Amazulu goalkeeper, Richard Afori, he stole the headlines for all the wrong reasons, gifting Chiefs 2 own goals. However, the Amazulu co-coach Arthur Zwane had a balanced take, acknowledging that there were errors. But let's hear from Zwane himself.
The best thing you could do when you play against Kaizer Chiefs, especially at home, is to frustrate them because you don't want them to gain the momentum. But I must say Kaizer Chiefs is doing very well. They are passing patterns. I think Coach Nabi is cooking something great with the team. They made our life difficult, but I must commend the players. In that moment, they kept, fighting, making sure that we don't concede a second goal.
Now, while Amazulu showed moments of resilience, Kaizer Chiefs missed key chances to clinch a win after making 6 changes to the team that started against Orlando Pirates in the Soweto derby. The Chiefs head coach Nazruddin Nabis's changes were justified due to various factors. In Jabulo Blom suspended, George Matlo injured. He also rested some of the players, and he also says Matlo will be sidelined for Friday's game away to Stellenbosch FC.
Je pense que j'avais raison au début de reposer Ox parce que j'étais très fatigué. Même maintenant, à la fin du match, il avait...
someone like Oaks, even today at the end of the game, he had a little bit of discomfort in his muscles due to the fatigue. And as well, we have players that have been injured for quite some time, and as well Bloom, who was suspended today. And George Matru, who was injured from last time and was not available today and will not be available as well for the next game.
The other match saw Magesi and Chippa United, who played at Seshego Stadium, suspended due to multiple floodlight outages. And Richards Bay pulled off a late comeback. They defeated Marumo Gallants 2-1 at the King Zwelithini Stadium in Umlazi, Durban. Cricket action. MI Cape Town qualified for their first Betway SA20 final by beating provincial rivals Paarl Royals by 39 runs in qualifier 1 at St. George's Park in Gqeberha, chasing 200 for victory. The Royals replied with 160 in 19.4 overs. The MI Cape Town bowlers shared wickets. Kagiso Rabada, Rashid Khan, Corbin Bosch and Trent Bolt each taking 2. Here's Kagiso Rabada.
So we're glad that we ticked that off. We're not taking anything for granted. Great start by Brian and Riza. And then well followed by our lower order and middle order. Actually, not even lower order, middle order. So, everyone's ready to play, and that's what we saw today, especially with the ball. I thought under pressure we responded well. We've been doing that all tournament, so hopefully we do that in the final.
And finally, rugby, Bath. They've lured promising young halfback Bernard van der Linde to join them on a 2-year deal starting at the end of the season. Van der Linde, who played sparingly for the Bulls, was expected to replace Louis Schroeder in Bath's player roster, with the former Shark scrum half Schroeder out of contract at the end of the season. That's a wrap of your sport. We'll tackle more top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Hey, Ndaulen, good morning to you once again. Tell me about this M&A activity in the media and entertainment space, MultiChoice and Canal Plus. Some progress there in as far as that transaction is concerned.
That's right, Thulas, and both companies really trying their best to get that tie up across the line. After facing backlash, both firms released statements yesterday detailing a new structure for Africa's biggest pay TV company, one that may gain favor from regulators. Now, this move is aimed at allowing France's Canal Plus to acquire MultiChoice without violating South African laws. According to the Electronic Communications Act, foreign entities are prohibited from owning more than 20% of a South African broadcasting license. So the new structure deals with that in particular. And the structure will include a new entity license co, which will hold the broadcasting license for MultiChoice's South African operations, while MultiChoice holds on to its video and entertainment assets. License Co, in the meantime, will be majority owned by historically disadvantaged entities and persons. According to Tech Central, new investors in License Co will include former Telkom CEO Sipho Maseko's AfriFund Investments and businesswoman Sonia de Bruyn's Identity Partners. Canal Plus is offering 125 Rand per share in cash for MultiChoice. The deal is, however, subject to approval by South African regulators. Meanwhile, the restructuring will not affect MultiChoice's services in the country. Subscribers will continue to access their services as normal, and the group says subscribers will eventually benefit from additional content and technology investments. Both firms are confident that their proposal meets all applicable laws, including restrictions on foreign ownership and control of broadcasting licenses.
And I hear you Frenching this thing. I said Canal Plus. Is it Canal Plus? It's Francais. Francais.
Oui, oui.
Tell me about Pick n Pay. They are well in the middle of a turnaround effort. Is that beginning to pay off?
Somewhat it is, but there are still some really big underlying problems. But so far, it seems like sales are gaining traction. They've reported a 3.6% increase in sales for the 45 weeks ending January 5th. This growth is attributed to the company's turnaround efforts, which include improving retail disciplines and expanding its online presence. The company's core supermarket business in South Africa saw a 1.9% increase in like-for-like sales, which accelerated to 3% in the last 19 weeks. Clothing sales in standalone stores jumped 10%, while online sales surged 42.5%. Discount chain Boxer, the star performer of the group, which is majority owned by Pick n Pay, continued to outperform with an 11.4% increase in sales and a 6.7% increase in like-for-like sales. Now, Pick n Pay's turnaround efforts have also focused on reducing debt and increasing cash. Following the listing of Boxer, Pick n Pay also closed underperforming stores and converted some to franchise operations. Its star performer, of course, Boxer, has continued to open more stores. Now, the company's share closed 3.8% higher following the trading update, indicating investor confidence in Pick n Pay's turnaround efforts. While there is optimism, I spoke to Anchor Capital's Peter Armitage, who has raised some concerns, saying Pick n Pay's like-for-like sales growth is still quite tepid, and that that it might not translate in earnings growth anytime soon, considering growing operating expenses and costs.
All right, Ntauling, please give us the second roundup of market activity for the morning.
Kicking things off in Asia, markets are trading mixed as traders remain concerned about a global trade war, particularly between China and the US. With that, we are seeing the Hong Kong Hang Seng trending lower, down over 1%, while the the Japanese Nikkei is in the green, up 0.1%. Over in Wall Street, surprisingly, futures are in negative territory despite yesterday's strong end. Trade quite volatile amid the shifts in Trump's trade policy. And then coming back home, trade upbeat with the JSE closing yesterday stronger. The rand also being boosted, trading stronger against the dollar at 18.70 against the greenback this hour.
All right, that's Ntauling Lechela. She'll be back with one more update for you just after 8:30 here on the Morning Brief.
Africa Update on SAFM.
Let's say good morning to Raz Sipho Mantula. Good morning to you, Raz. So this is big, the summit between SADC and the East African community, and we are told there'll be participation by both Paul Kagame and Felix Tshisekedi.
Refreshing morning, Thulas and Jumbo Africa to the listeners. Indeed, Thulas, when you look at the chairpersonship of Kenya on East Africa Community announcing the joint summit this coming Friday and Saturday in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, we might confront Paul Kagame, but Tshisekedi might be virtual or might be present. Remember Tshisekedi, there is still a beef against the East Africa Community Peacekeeping Mission, hence he had to pull them and went to the SADC route. And now this meeting also, it confirms the East Africa summit that happened 2 weeks ago. It confirms a week ago summit of SADC. You can say that they are using this summit to say reconnect with diplomacy and put an end to the cycle of clashes. We have seen also that Goma yesterday, unilateral ceasefire also by the March 23 movement. That is another progress that we see, as well as the grilling that happens in the parliament yesterday.
And then in Mozambique, tell me about Venancio Mondlane. What's happening there, Sipho? Why is he leaving the Podemos party?
But remember, he said Podemos have turned their back against him by engaging with government. He said it was against the will of the people. He said that he might open a new party, and that was long seen to us. Remember that he went on Podemos, that's what you can say, a proxy candidate,
yes,
as an independent. But now he signed an agreement with them in August last year before elections, and after elections now he says Podemos have been engaging and they've taken their seats also in parliament. So he's considering opening his own political party.
Yeah, I remember hearing analysis that said the way they came together, he needed a party, Podemos needed a candidate, and somehow they intersected in that way. Will this deal in Botswana between De Beers and the government of Botswana see our boy, Advocate Dumaboko, holding a massive stone like his predecessor did a few months ago?
No, that is quite true. Remember, Dumaboko engages with this company since last year, November, by planning to say that there's a need to look at those 50%, but now it's only 30% that was allowed, that they've reached a 10-year deal to say by 2035, at least Gaborone must have 50% of the shares within this diamond company that has been amassing a lot of money to us. When you look at that, Gaborone comes second after Russia when you talk of the second largest producer of diamonds. Now, Dumaboko has managed to us, as we have known, that he wants to capitalize on the mining sector to benefit the ordinary people of Botswana. And that's how we see this agreement also being seen by the Minister of Minerals, Boholo Kinwende, also saying that they will sign it just before the end of this month.
Yeah. And then tell me about developments in the Gambia. Why is the launch of the first ever law magazine so significant?
It is so great to us when you look at the Gambia with the elder called Fafa Idris Mbayi. They call him the mobile law library, who has come up with a law journal or a law magazine named Justice, Let There Be Justice, Though the Heavens Fall. I think, to us, you know the legal Latin of it, and that legal Latin is so simple. Justice must be realized regardless of the consequences. Fiat Justita Rut Salum. That is, let there be justice, though the heavens fall. You might remember some of the cases in this country. I don't want to take you there. 2021.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
You know, but now this elder was a former minister of justice in Gambia, was a former attorney general, Fafa Idris Mbai, who is launching this law magazine as part of what we'll say, Thulas. It's a groundbreaking because it will allow legal scholarship, critical analysis, and to discuss the contemporary legal issues affecting the Gambia and beyond.
All right. Finally, Sipho, in your historical archives, take me back to the 5th of February 1999, a significant moment in our country's young democracy then.
That is quite true, Thulas, that you are on the eve of the SONA, but 26 years ago, the founding president, the late President Nelson Mandela, delivered his final major address to the parliament, marking what others they say it was the ultimate session of the first democratically elected parliament. It was not easy to us when he was engaging on issues that challenges South Africa. We still see them 26 years later, to us, the slaughtering of words, the issues of differences, the issues of land, the issues of justice, the issues of corruption, the issues of cultural, religious diversities that we need in this country. This was what you can call the maiden speech, which was a closing going for 1999 when we saw former President Thabo Mbeki taking from President Nelson Mandela. Asante sana Thulas, as you are still in your conversation, SAFM, observing the Black History Month.
Sipho, thank you very much for that. That's Sipho Mantula there with your Africa update.
Insurance are experts in what they do.
They get to understand what type of business are you doing so that they can insure you properly.
It actually validates why we're with them. If you haven't called Outsurance yet, what are you waiting for?
Switch to Business Outsurance today and you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium. SMS quote to 43328. That's quote to 43328 to switch and save today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
Action is getting tougher in the second half of the league. The Folks want to ease off pressure with a win, but the Eagles aim to fly with 3 points to remain in the top 5. This is the Bundesliga, football as it's meant to be. Catch Borussia Mönchengladbach FC versus Eintracht Frankfurt FC on Saturday, 8 February at 7:30 p.m. live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
During Ford's Blue Sky offers, you can get a new Ford Territory Ambiente from just $6,199 per month, including our optional service plan. Only when financed through Ford Credit. 10% deposit, primeless 5.25%, 40% residual. Visit your trusted Ford dealer today for Blue Sky offers where our Ford Family Guarantee comes standard. Limited time offer while stocks last. Ford Credit is a registered credit provider and an authorized financial services provider. T&Cs apply.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Reminder about the protesting out in the northwest province, Bapong, Mudjiganeng area on the N4, right in the centre there. There is some protesting, some queuing traffic. Expect delays and possible diversions if you're driving between Rustenburg and Pretoria this morning in that Bapong area. Mike, one, we've been checking heavy traffic this morning from Gold Reef City all the way through to Oxford Road in Parktown. A lot of traffic delay into Sandton as well, coming down from Bryanston and Randburg, Peter Place onto William Mandela to Hurlingham, and then Republic Road, really heavy from Ferndale side all the way across into that William Mandela traffic. Durban, a fatal pedestrian crash out at Hillcrest this morning. It's on the old main road at the M13, although traffic seems to be moving through that area now. There is a big backlog on the M13, driving down Fields Hill, a crash down the bottom of the hill, down by Richmond Road. That queue starts around Maytime, and some disruption around the Savannah Park, Clarvata area due to some earlier protesting. Routes like Hunt Stedman and the Richmond Road are quite heavily backed up this morning. And Cape Town, we've been mentioning this high volume day, plus some rain and everything on a go slow. The M5 still jamming from Parkwood all the way through to the N2 highway. The N2 very heavy from the airport. And the N1 this morning, an earlier police incident near Okavango Road, plus now a collision scene in that area. So the N1 inbound towards Okavango Road, that's where the crash is. The traffic remains heavy from Justenburg. Once you get through that Brackenfell crash, you stay in traffic all the way through to the city centre. And lots of traffic on Marine Drive, Sunningdale down to Racecourse Road, Milnerton through to Pardon Island, jam-packed. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, or unfair blacklisting, Clientele legal plans are affordable. and you receive up to 670,000 rands worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our legal team will be your support 24 hours a day. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and a licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Mom, yeah, look, a golden pencil. Wow, where'd you get that? My Buco pencil case. I could win a bike and vouchers, and my school gets 20,000 rand.
That's so cool. The Buco Golden Pencil Initiative. 9 lucky learners will find a golden pencil in their Buco pencil cases, winning big prizes and school refurbishments. Buco, building communities one golden moment at a time. Begin with Buco.
Buco. Big stories of the day. Hashtag the morning brief.
8 minutes to 8 here on the Morning Brief on SAFM. It's good to be in your company. Let's focus on higher education for a moment. Debilitating student debt, accommodation struggles, overcrowded kitchens and lecture halls, and broken and incomplete infrastructure. These are some of the findings made by Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Higher Education during recent visits to various institutions of higher learning in the country. And we're told they've been particularly highlighted at the Tshwane University of Technology. Credit to the reporting there of our colleagues at The Citizen. Let's welcome Tebogo Letsie, who is the chair of the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee on Higher Education. Good morning to you and thank you for your time. So just give me a sense of the extent of some of these challenges, particularly if we can start with the situation at Tshwane University of Technology, because I believe that's where you found some of the worst manifestations of these problems.
Good morning to yourself and the listeners at SAFM. Indeed, on Friday last week, on the 31st of January, we concluded our oversight by visiting Tshwane University of Technology. It was when we were doing the walkabout, looking at the infrastructure challenges, looking at the smoothness of students going back to residences. We found in one block where there's 4 residences in one block, they call the 4 towers, having one kitchen to share with 44, I think, plates for around 980 students, which it's not nice. It says one student or 24 students share one plate.
And this is stove plates, right?
No, it's a stove. It's a stove kitchen, built in, but there's only 44 of those in that kitchen. So the ratio is not good. It's not normal. And when we asked them about it, there was just wishy-washy. You could not get a sense of what are they trying to do there. And then, but the accommodation looks well, except one of the student accommodation. The students are only coming back now. They've had the whole of December and the whole of January to renovate, to fix certain things. But the one that we're highlighting is that you get in, it's a female rest, all female rests, and you get there are no toilet seats in some of them. So, the infrastructure there, I think the infrastructure people did not take their job seriously. And we highlighted that to management, and management promised that they will fix it.
So TUT was one of the institutions you visited. How does it fare and compare with the other institutions in terms of the levels of infrastructure required for effective teaching and learning at that level?
We went to Northwest University in Potchefstroom and Mafikeng, and the infrastructure, the student accommodation infrastructure there, was too good. The libraries, you can tell that it's the beginning of the year. They took the whole of December and January to fix their problems that they would have had on student accommodation, on their libraries and all of that. So when you look at Northwest University and you look at TUT, you can tell that there would have been a lapse in infrastructure
maintenance from TUT except that site, or rather on TUT and not at Northwest University. But TUT itself was really ready for the opening of the academic year. The administrative side of things were proper. There were systems in place. Students knew where to go, and those who preferred to do walk-ins, there were systems in place for them that side.
All right, let's leave it there. Thank you for sharing your observations with us. That's Tebogo Letseye, who is the chairperson of Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Higher Education.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
Let me take some of your calls now. Sfiso in Durban, good morning. You want to talk to me about Donald Trump this morning?
Greetings to us and all the listeners. I think my take on America and Trump is that the sooner Trump cuts off his funding, the better for South Africa, because America will always be a yoke around our necks as South Africans. It's very rich for him to say we are passing race-based laws, whereas on the other hand, America hasn't forgotten about the Holocaust. As it is now, they are talking about removing the Palestinians and putting them in other countries just for the Jewish community or for the Israel people. But on the other hand, South Africa must not correct the imbalances of the past. That were done by people who happen to be of European descent. Trump is nothing but a white supremacist, and he wants to see white people continue to dominate black people in South Africa.
All right, Sfiso, thank you for that. It's a lot, really. As Sfiso mentions there, the new plan that has been announced by Donald Trump in relation to Gaza, and basically saying all the Palestinians there need to be moved out, and he will be taking over Gaza, and it will be developed, and it will become the Riviera of the Middle East. Really, really concerning pronouncements that you hear from Donald Trump on a daily basis. Robert in East London, good morning to you. You also want to talk about Donald Trump?
No, morning, Julius. No, it's about this expropriation bill thingy. As you can hear, I'm a white person. My name is Robert.
Yes.
But I'd just like to throw something in the mix here with everybody. Maybe see how they feel about it. What is the population of South Africa at this present time? It's approximately 60 million, isn't it?
Yes.
And of that, how many are white people? Approximately 4 million. Is that correct?
Well, I think 7%, yes.
3.5 to 4 million about. Okay. Let's say, just for argument's sake, that every white person, their land is taken away, their properties, etc., and it's given over to previous disadvantaged people. There's how many people left over? All the whites are gone now. They don't own land. There's still 56 million people that need land. Where's the land going to come from? Because there's no more whites. Whites don't own land anymore. So where's the other 56 million going to come from? Where are they going to get land?
Sure, I hear.
That's what I'd like to throw in the mix.
I hear what you're saying, Robert. But remember, not all 54 million will want land for agricultural purposes, right? And also remember
that property I own.
Wait a second.
I own a property. Yes.
Wait a second. Remember the cascading effect as well. So the more people come into the agriculture economy and have access to land, it has that cascading effect on other sectors of society where other people will be active, right? So, I mean, the value chain starts with production of food, and there are other industries that supply. So it has that effect. And also, lastly, Robert, I don't think anyone in this country is talking about taking all land from all white people, but we are talking about equitable access to land.
Yeah, let's hope so, yeah.
No, we're not hoping. We're not hoping. We know that's not what we are talking about. We've never talked about that.
I don't feel that way. As a white person, I don't feel that way.
Well, it's a sad situation if you don't see it that way. We'll continue to engage, Robert, but that really isn't that really isn't the policy of South Africa. Thank you for that. That's Robert in East London. 8 a.m. Let's check in with N. Musa with the latest news.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30760. Now that's good news.
In our our top stories, a call on government to address unemployment and Arab nations reject Trump's suggestion to relocate Palestinians. Good morning. Non-profit organization Save South Africa has called for tangible solutions to the country's high unemployment, which officially stood at 32.1%, but 45.5% among the youth in last year's third quarter. The organization's call comes as anticipation builds for President Cyril Ramaphosa's 2025 State of the Nation address tomorrow. Last month, steel producer ArcelorMittal also announced it would shut down its long steel plants, resulting in the loss of at least 3,500 jobs. Save South Africa's communications director, Tebogo Mashilompane.
We expect the president to be clear when coming to issues of unemployment. But we are saying before we can even go to unemployment, deal with the people that are already employed. Because we mentioned the fact that the CWP workers, 67,000, they're facing job cuts. We've got also now recently the health community workers also they're facing job cuts. And then we've got teachers. So we are saying, the president, what are you going to do? Because if you cut those that are in the system, it means that those who are unemployed will not get the opportunity.
Families of 3 former employees of the Lily mine in Barberton, Mpumalanga, have again accused government of not doing enough to help to retrieve the bodies of their loved ones. 9 years ago today, Pratin Kambole, Yvonne Mnisi and Solomon Yarinda were trapped underground when the mine collapsed. They had been in a container used as a lamp room at the time. The families will commemorate the incident today. Their spokesperson, Heri Mazibuko, says they are not expecting much on the matter from the State of the Nation address.
As we heading to the State of the Nation address, as the families were not expecting the president to mention the issue. However, even if he mentioned the issue, all we need is action upon the issue, of which we believe even if he can say a few words, that will be it. There will be no progress or action taken after that. There were many sonars that have passed. The issue of Liliman has never been entertained.
The Defence Minister Angie Motshekga has denied allegations that South African soldiers are deployed to the DRC to protect the business interests of President Cyril Ramaphosa. Motshekga was giving a report to Parliament on the operations of the SANDF following the deaths of 14 South African soldiers in the fight between the DRC military and the M23 rebels. The soldiers' bodies will be repatriated today. Motshekga says the deployment of the soldiers is based on the mandate of SADC.
We are saying on the 8th of May at Windhoek in Namibia, heads of state took a decision for the summit DRC mission. So from the allegation, so it means all of them, 15, agreed to go and protect the interests of South African business. I think it just really shocks me to think it's really also taking, in my view, taking the entire SADC for nothing, that they could meet as heads of state on behalf of individuals in South Africa.
Commuters in Johannesburg will be forced to find alternative transport yet again this morning. Rea Vaya bus services are still suspended until further notice. The suspension follows the fatal shooting of 2 bus drivers in separate incidents in Soweto on Monday evening. Puseletso Mukwena reports.
Johannesburg commuters have been urged to find alternative mode of transport as Rea Vaya bus operations continue to be suspended. The bus operations were halted on Tuesday morning after 2 of its drivers were fatally shot on Monday evening. The drivers were gunned down and shot multiple times by unknown men within 10 minutes from each other in Soweto. One driver was shot in Mabedla, the other driver was shot in Protea Lane.
And finally, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Egypt, Jordan, the United Arab Emirates and the Palestinian Authority have rejected U.S. President Donald Trump's proposal for America to take over the Gaza Strip. Trump said the U.S. would permanently resettle the Gaza Strip's Palestinian population in other countries in the regions. He addressed a joint news conference with the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at the White House.
The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it, too. We'll own it and be responsible for dismantling all of the dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site, level the site, and get rid of the destroyed buildings, level it out, create an economic development that will supply unlimited numbers of jobs and housing for the people of the area. Do a real job, do something different. Just can't go back. If you go back, it's going to end up the same way it has for 100 years.
Recapping the top story, non-profit organization Save South Africa has called for tangible solutions to the country's high unemployment, which officially stood at 32.1%, but 45.5% among the youth in last year's third quarter. The organization's call comes as anticipation builds for President Cyril Ramaphosa's 2025 State of the Nation address tomorrow. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Those were the top stories for this hour. Don't miss out on a possible car insurance saving. SMS out to 30754 for a quote. Outsurance, where you always get something out.
Love is in the air, but there could be some great car insurance savings for you too. Get a quote, and if Outsurance can't beat your car insurance premium, ask them for 500 Rand cash. And make that 1,500 Rand cash if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. Get monthly savings on your car insurance or cash in your pocket. Either way, you win. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. With Outsurance, you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Well, if you're driving between Pretoria and Rustenburg, you might want to sit tight, just delay your travel, protesting out that side, burning tyres and traffic backlogging both ways. Majikaneng Bapong area, right in the central area there. Quite a heavy backlog of traffic. You don't really want to get caught up in that. Joburg's Mike 1 is heavy. Boyson's right through to Grayston Drive this morning. And lights are down again. They fail regularly, these ones. Vic Coppin and Main coming in from Kyalami is a major queue of traffic this morning. Probably an hour to get through that, I think. M13 Fields Hill coming into Pinetown, a crash at the bottom of the hill there. Vehicle off the roadway, very heavy from sort of Maytime Stores territory this morning. And Cape Town, a crash on the M1 inbound before Okavango Road is being cleared. Traffic is still slow though from Eustonburg through Kryfontein coming into Brackenfell. And a stationary big truck on the N1 out of town this morning at Plattercliff Hill, causing a pushback from around about sort of N1 city territory. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
A very good morning to you in your SFM Sports headlines. It is cricket. South African batter David Miller has made history with 500 T20 sixes. And we go to the FIH Indoor Hockey World Cup, where the South African men's team gave the defending champions Austria a scare. We'll have details around 8:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
9 minutes after 8, it's good to be in your company. We are into the third hour of the morning brief here on SAFM. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane. So I've just been reflecting. There's a call that I took from Robert in East London just before the news. I'm reflecting on it and some of the conversations. And I've been reflecting quite a bit about the so-called race-based policies, the issues that people raise about the potential for, they always say, Zimbabwe-style land grabs and the likes. And I'm saying to myself, what are we doing wrong in communicating very clearly and effectively who we are and who we are not as a society? As a democratic society founded on a supreme constitution? Where are people who hold and by the way, don't get me wrong, I'm not bashing Robert in any way. I engaged with him and I believe we made some progress, and perhaps with time we'll get to understand each other. So this is not me bashing one of my callers. Don't take it that way. It's me just wondering, why does it seem that disinformation, and I won't say misinformation, disinformation, seems to be gaining traction about our policies as a country, about our fidelity to our constitution? Nothing in the last 30 years, absolutely nothing in the last 30 years has shown that we are going to deviate from our constitutional path. Nothing. So why is disinformation winning? Why does it seem to be winning? Why is it amplified more than the actual position? What are we doing wrong here? What are we getting wrong in terms of people going straight to source documents? If someone says to you, oh, they're going to do Zimbabwe-style land grabs with this expropriation bill, pick it up, this expropriation act, pick it up and read it for yourself, and then form your own conclusions and read the words. I did an exercise I was saying yesterday where I took the Constitution, Section 25, which has stood for since 1996. I took it and I read it alongside the Expropriation Act. In many sections, it's word for word. And then where there's that talk about nil compensation, you see how much padding happens, how much padding and how much processes need to be undertaken before you can even talk about it. And in fact, one of the categories of land that can be expropriated for nil, by the way, is property owned by the state, which for me was fine. I was like, oh, so the state can expropriate from itself. But just read it for yourself, just how conditional that is and how unlikely that situation can be to arise. So with all of that, why does it seem like disinformation gains traction more than the facts? What are we getting wrong in some segments of our society and their understanding of how these things work in our society? This whole talk about driving white people off the land and taking all their land, etc., Zimbabwe-style land grabs, race-based policies, etc., where are we getting wrong? I don't know. I'm exasperated, as you can hear. I don't know what we're getting wrong with communication about who we are and who we are not as a constitutional democracy. Give me a call on that and other issues you may have on your mind. The number to dial 086 000 2032. Your WhatsApp voice notes on 061 410 4107. This is SAFM. We are leading the conversations that move us. The third hour of the Wednesday edition of the Morning Brief starts now.
Whether you're having a early, snoozy, tantrumy, chill, frustrating, or jokey morning. Mornings love McDonald's, so choose happy and enjoy a Burry Burger Double and a short filter coffee for only R39.90 from 6 to 10:30 a.m. at McDonald's.
In the Arena is a docu-series that takes an in-depth look at the life and career of the legendary tennis player Serena Williams, offering a behind-the-scenes glimpse into her journey, both on and off the court. It explores her rise to tennis dominance, challenges, and personal experiences. Do not miss out on a great story of incredible impact. Catch In the Arena on Saturdays at 3 p.m. on SABC3. Alternatively at 9 p.m. on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 on Saturdays and Thursdays. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
All right, let me start with a call from Peter in Durban, who wants to weigh in on some of what has come out in our conversations about misinformation and disinformation. Good morning to you, Peter.
Yeah, morning, Tulas. Look, is it really any surprise? I mean, obviously you're exasperated, but the truth of the matter is that what they call legacy media has been pushed aside. And we now have, anyone can simply make news up. People are lazy, with all due respect. We follow our phones, we see something, and we swallow it as the truth. This is not just about the land issue. I mean, everything. Elections can be swayed now. It's actually quite scary to us. It really is. Because there's no fact-checking. Emotions of the land issue is a very emotive issue. There's a lot of anger and fear that's evoked when this is discussed because it's a very difficult history we have. But the reality is that there's just anyone can now be a journalist. And that, for me, is pretty scary because, I mean, I have been brought up, I do read newspapers, those that are left. But what you see on social media, it's very easy to put out any fact you want, and people swallow it, and they don't check it. And I'm afraid that that's the reality of our society. So I hear your exasperation, brother, but you shouldn't be surprised.
All right. No, thank you, Peter. I think that it goes some way in explaining some of my observations. Thank you for that. That's Peter in Durban. Let me take a call from Sherwin in Cape Town. Good morning to you, Sherwin, on the issue of land this morning.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. Thank you for the opportunity. To us on the question of land and also the complete political landscape, right? And the emphasis is on land. And I would like to agree with what Robert has said about race-based policies. If we look at it at large, 3 censuses has been conducted in South Africa after 1990 by the current imposter settlers, be it black and white settlers, which they call themselves the Government of National Unity. Why was there blocks which you have to tick? Is that not race-based in your census?
No, it isn't.
And then I would like to emphasize the economic empowerment. Be it affirmative action, be it black economic empowerment, be it broad-based black economic empowerment, triple BEE, is that not the emphasis of race-based?
No, it isn't.
We are not out of the apartheid system in itself.
Sherwin.
The apartheid system in South Africa is flourishing, and that's why we, as the sovereign Aboriginal indigenous people in South Africa, the rightful owners of this country, our ancestral land, we are not siding with Donald Trump. Neither are we followers or fans of Donald Trump. But Donald Trump speaks truth to power.
Okay, Sherwin, please allow me to engage you before you move on to Donald Trump. Have you read your constitution, particularly the part that talks about measures that can be taken to advance historically disadvantaged South Africans? Have you read that part? Section 9 thereabouts. Have you read that part?
I've read that with insight. And as far as the sovereign Aboriginal people classified in 1950, right? And prior to that, the 1809 Hottentots Declaration, where on site, if the Hottentot has been seen, it should be wiped out and killed.
All right, Sherwin, please stay with me. Please stay with me. Will you agree with me that in South Africa, through no agency of many of us who are alive today, some of us, not all of us, the historical fact is that if you say historically disadvantaged by past patterns of discrimination, who are you talking about? You are talking about black people, are you not?
I'm talking about...
And by black, I don't mean black African only, broadly black South Africans.
The black South African and its ancestors are not from the soil of South Africa. We are prepared.
Right. Sherwin, I'm afraid I'm going to have to move on. You and I are not having the same conversation, Sherwin. You and I are not having the same conversation. I am not taking away from the conversation you want to have, but it's not the conversation that I believe you and I are trying to have this morning, and we're not making any progress. That's Sherwin there. Let's take a call from Stembele in Flagstaff. Good morning to you, Stembele. You want to talk to me about Trump and Israel?
Sorry about that, Jules. Good morning. Yes, I do. I just would like to check. I would like just to be concise and very short. The question that I have is about the ICC. Well, I've seen that Benjamin Netanyahu visited the White House, and what I know is that there is a warrant of arrest hanging over his head, issued by International Criminal Court. So my question now is that in which country is Benjamin Netanyahu going to get arrested if he's visiting? And is that International Criminal Court really effective? Is it something that is working? I just would like to check on that. Otherwise, there is nothing more.
So, Stembele, let me just give you my sense of it. I've always said that the power and the moral, suasion of international law is that there are no international law police to enforce it. I always say that your adherence to international law reveals who you are fundamentally as a society. No one is going to chase you around. I mean, even as you say, the International Criminal Court arrest warrants are not always enforced. But it really is the global values that we've all agreed over a long period of time to say this is just beyond the pale. Killing civilians in war, etc., treating prisoners of war in a particular way, all of those things. So for me, I think the value of it is in you defining yourself that I'm a country that adheres to the best norms of international law. Who can arrest Benjamin Netanyahu? Well, I don't believe that, for example, he could come to South Africa. Of course, there are difficulties of if you had to now effect the warrant of arrest, what would the implications of that be, as we've seen in the last two instances with Vladimir Putin and formerly with the former president of Sudan, Omar al-Bashir. Peter, good morning. In the Northern Cape, you want to talk about land expropriation.
Good morning, and good morning to your listeners as well. Look, I'm as angry as you are. And maybe we should just take one step back and ask ourselves who the land really belongs to. Because, you see, when the land was taken away from black people by a stroke of a pen, who cried foul then? Everybody was silent about it. The white people enjoyed the fruits and the benefits that were given to them by a stroke of a pen. Nowhere in 1993, 1992, 1993, when the Constitution was crafted and everybody was happy, we're going to have a democracy, we're going into a government of national unity, the very white people who stole from us, and you've got to call a spade a spade, who stole from us, then tried to secure property rights. But there was a clause that they could not get, and that clause says the state can expropriate at fair market value price. The only difference now in 1994's written statement and the amended version is that it would be at a fair price value. It's not what we actually wanted. We wanted without compensation. That's the ANC's conference resolution without. But we appreciate the fact that we don't want to be another Zimbabwe.
Right.
So people, the state has been buying farms for many, and they actually ripped us off. A farm of a value of 1 million was sold for 3-4 million, and nobody cried foul about that.
I got your point. Thank you for that. That's Peter in the Northern Cape. Let me move on and take a call from Thabo in Kronstadt. Good morning to you, Thabo. Also on land this morning.
Yeah, my time is already gone now.
I'm sorry about that. Yeah, please go ahead.
What we think, black and white, we must share the land, and then the land is not easy to be workable. Most of the land in South Africa is in the hand of Nedbank and the Land Bank. Now, what we think, EFF and the MK, we are not in the position to say land expropriation without compensation. No, we are not agree on that one. We want to share land between black and white. That is our position from next year when we go to election.
Thank you.
The land must be, we must buy the.
Oh, sorry about that, Thabo. But that's exactly what I'm wondering. Why do voices like Thabo's voice and the parties that he mentions, I don't know if he's a member of one of those parties, why is that message not the one that just, for lack of a better word, trumps the disinformation and misinformation? Neil, good morning in East London. You want to talk to me about Donald Trump? Yes?
Yes, good morning. The statement by Donald Trump, we must look at it in a broader perspective. It's not just the land issue. I want to look at the perception when Elon Musk was at his organization, his hand sign.
I saw that. The Nazi salute.
Yes. Now, you know, when you look at that type of racism and actions, you see in South Africa what we should have done. Currently, we are still appeasing a minority. I'm talking holistically. 1994, we said we're going to be able democracy, but that democracy left places like Tanzania and Soweto the same in 1996, 97. Because we carried on the policy of appeasement of a minority, we carried on the policy of capitalism. I am not a member of the EFF, but you know, when you listen to the EFF and you look at the majority of people in South Africa are suffering. We then should be more radical in our approach to say every time we have a policy, we have a minority that cries and we all want to jump around with the NHI. You know, we've just had some guests from Australia and they were telling us about free, medical, service to get to the hospitals. And everybody was so excited and all this. And I was saying to somebody else, you know what? That's exactly what the NHI do. But you know what? Because we all make a big noise and we say, no, it's not going to work. What I'm then saying is that we should rather go with like the EFF and NK, whatever it is, and get to that. In fact, we should have had a rethink of democracy. Remember, our democracy was not just going in on equal terms. You had to redress a lot of imbalances of the past.
Yeah.
And now you have a world leader making a noise like Donald Trump, which I really don't take serious. And then again, for the president to make a noise on Twitter, I mean, of his caliber, that is even more. I don't even know why we even had to respond to that.
All right, Neil, thank you. Let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you. That's Neil there in East London. JJ in Polokwane, you want to talk to me about Gaza. Are you talking about what Donald Trump is now proposing about Gaza? Good morning.
Yeah. Good morning. I'm saying the issue of the land that Donald Trump is getting into in South Africa is the similar vein that he's using in Gaza. Because Gaza, he is saying the people of Gaza, the Palestinians, some must be moved to Egypt and some must be moved to Jordan, because he wants to build a Riviera of the Middle East. And he doesn't care whether it's in line with the international law or it's out of sync with the international law. But he has decided that the Gaza Strip is going to be occupied by the Americans. He will be sending the soldiers there to deal with that issue. But those people, they must move from where they are to anywhere. Some will have to go to Egypt and some to Jordan. And now there are people who are praising Trump left and right and center when he's talking something which it's not making sense.
Yeah, JJ, thank you for that. I mean, it's unheard of. You get the sense it's becoming clear that it's going to be a very long 4 years. My sense also is that Trump is emboldened by the fact that he's been re-elected and basically feels that, you know what, this is what the people wanted and I'm going to be more in terms of accelerating doing those things because they've given it an endorsement. Jack in Musina, good morning to you. You want to talk about something completely different, the State of the Nation address on your mind this morning.
It's JC Kaunda from Musina, Sizwe.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, Sizwe, before I get to my point, I would like to respond to what you were saying about this land. It's just the fear of the unknown. You're pretty conscious that is overcoming them. It's not a land grab. It's an explosion. There's land that is not used. So that they can build this school railway. You understand?
Yes.
Let me go to my one for Sona. What I wish for Sona is the president must live by the example. He must first cut the budget. Sona. They are spending millions and millions. They must start that budget. 2, let the president produce code card that in 2023 says we're going to do ABD. We're afraid to do a what?
JCK.
Yes.
I'm sorry, bro. Your line is really letting me down. I was really enjoying listening to the points that you are making, but the line is really, really bad. That's JCK out in Musina. I really wanted to hear more from him. Again, another voice on the issue of land and other issues, these policies we've been discussing that has me exacerbated that exasperated why these voices such as JCK and others are not the ones that are dominating the conversation. 8:30, let's check in with N. Musa with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, there are growing calls for the Defence Minister Angie Motshekga to resign after the deaths of the 14 South African soldiers in the eastern DRC. Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Defence grilled Motshekga on the report she gave about the deaths. Non-profit organisation Save South Africa has called for tangible solutions to the country's high unemployment, which officially stood at 32.1%, but 45.5% among the youth in last year's third quarter. And Rea Vaya has conceded there is miscommunication among stakeholders, and this is causing confusion among employees who are concerned about their safety. Its bus operations remain suspended. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Quite heavy this morning, northern parts of Joburg, no lights, Rivonia and 12, so leaving Sunny Hill on your way through Rivonia towards Sandton, quite heavy. Douglas Drive onto Grosvenor, coming into Bryanston, there's a really big backlog there, and the lights have failed yet again on Main and Vickop, and it's been a disaster coming in from Kyalami through Lone Hill on that particular section of the main road. Also Bayers Nordia from Rampark Ridge through towards Fairland, loads of traffic lights down, that's still a very busy run through as well. The Midrand story, still slow, Old Joburg Road through to New Road, but it is starting to ease up. Durban M7, some roadworks heading towards the Bluff at Bel Air and Wakesley. The queues back through the M2. Crash at the bottom of Fields Hill, slowing traffic from Kloof coming in towards the Pinetown area. And Cape Town, we've been detailing just really busy conditions today. It's midweek Wednesday, traffic volumes spike. You've got some rain in the mix as well around Cape Town. Just give you an idea of how heavy it is. The N1 from Brackenfell, the N2 from the airport, the M5 is still back at Ottery, the M3 heavy from Constantia all the way through to Hospital Bed. Lots of traffic. Yesterday it took until about just after 11 for that peak hour to ease up. We're looking at probably the same deal this morning. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Good morning to you once again, Zai. So a bit of history being made there by David Miller, right? As far as T20 cricket is concerned.
Oh my word, if it was the Olympics, this guy would get gold.
Yeah.
I remember this Killer Miller, Miller time. So I think he definitely deserves the title.
Oh, it's Miller time.
Miller time.
I remember that, yeah.
So David Miller etching his name into cricket history, becoming the first South African to hit 500 sixers in T20 cricket. The Paarl Royals captain achieved the milestone during qualifier 1 of the SA20. Miller has joined the elite 500 Sixers club alongside names like Chris Gayle and Kieran Pollard, cementing his status as one of the game's greats. Let's go to soccer news. The Gauteng Premier, Panyaza Lesufi, has assured the nation that former Bafana head coach Ephraim Shakes Mashaba is in high spirits at the Helen Joseph Hospital in Johannesburg. The ex-South Africa under-20 and under-23 national team's mentor was hospitalized at the facility for a problem, and that was due to a problematic bladder. Now, calls have been made by many that the national icon should be at a private hospital facility. Lusufi says he applauds the healthcare facility for doing their best.
It doesn't. And that's the reason why we support the national health insurance. The same people that are asking you that question, when they have either medical aid and the medical aid get exhausted, where do they come? They come here, you know. What we need to do is to elevate the level of support that we give here to be above those that they think is better. But here we've got specialists. Here we've got the best. We've got people that are trained to deal with this particular work. And at this level, I'm also impressed. I mean, I met the clinical team that is dealing with these things, the clinicians, and the report they've given me indicate that they've dived deep in the kind of support that they want, and they didn't even demand even a little cent from our national coach.
That's Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi on the morning brief. Elsewhere, Newcastle, they'll welcome Arsenal to St. James Park tonight for the second leg of their Carabao Cup semi-final, with the hosts already boasting a 2-0 lead as they look to secure their place in the final. Arsenal, however, will come into this game full of confidence following their stunning 5-1 blitz of Manchester City over the weekend. Here's Arsenal boss Mikel Arteta.
They are a very difficult team to play against. They've been different games. We beat them at home last year in a good way. Obviously, this season has been different with two very different games as well, I think. So, yeah, another opportunity ahead of us, a big one that can take us to Wembley. So, really looking forward to it.
Tennis action. Carlos Alcaraz came through a tough opener against Botish van der Zandschulp at the Rotterdam Open. The top-seed Spaniard Alcaraz won 7-6, 3-6, 6-1. Meanwhile, Holger Rune moved into the second round of the Rotterdam Open with a 7-6, 6-4 win against Lorenzo Sonego. And in women's tennis action, Belinda Bencic moved into the second round of the WTA 500 Mubadala Abu Dhabi Open in the UAE with a 6-2, 3-6, 6-1 victory over Rebecca Strumkova of Slovakia. That's your sport on the morning brief. We'll have more sport around 12:30 with John Gerika. I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Hey, good morning to you once again in Dowling. Let's start with news to do with consumers in our economy at the moment. You're telling us that consumers continue to struggle, particularly with debt.
That's right, Thulas. Many South Africans finding it harder to make ends meet due to rising debt and stagnant wages. According to Debt Busters, a debt counseling organization, consumers who looked for help in the fourth quarter of last year had 42% less purchasing power than they did in 2016. The main reason for this decline is inflation, which has increased by 44% over the past 8 years, while incomes have only risen by 2% in the same period. It's important to note that inflation over an annual basis has steadied, but the index takes a long-term view, recognizing that paying off debt is typically a prolonged process spanning from 5 to 20 years. Now, due to high inflation and downbeat wage growth within that period, many people started turning to personal loans and credit to cover their daily expenses. The average debt burden for those seeking debt counseling remains high, with 68% of their take-home pay going towards debt repayment. For higher income earners, the figure rises to 74%, while lower income earners are struggling with debt to income ratios as high as 137%. But there seems to be a silver lining. More South Africans are taking proactive steps to manage their debt, with a 9% surge in demand for online debt management tools in the fourth quarter. Debt Busters also noted over a million users take advantage of its free digital debt management services last year.
So despite those challenges, though, that consumers are facing and Dowling, new vehicle sales, you are telling us this morning, are off to a strong start in 2025.
And perhaps they're using debt for that, but we'll never know.
A lot of the times.
So South Africa's new vehicle sales got off to an upbeat start in January, with 46,398 cars and commercial vehicles being sold. This represents a 10.4% increase from January 2024. Now, the strong sales performance is said to be due to growing consumer and business confidence, as well as stronger economic prospects. Vehicle exports also recorded an increase, with a 29.7% rise last month compared to the same period last year. But industry players are cautioning against over-expectation, citing ongoing challenges such as affordability concerns, rising fuel prices, with February marking the fourth consecutive month of hikes, and uncertainty around global trade conditions and how that could start impacting the price of cars. Despite these challenges, though, the industry is optimistic about the potential for modest growth in 2025.
All right, give us a sense of what kind of a day we can expect on the markets for this Wednesday in Dowling.
So local markets could be in for a mixed open, influenced by its global peers. In terms of company news, traders will be waking up to updates from Sasol and SAPI. Meanwhile, we're seeing some strength coming through from the currency front, with the rand breaking under the 1870 mark, sitting at 1868 to the dollar this hour. Looking at U.S. markets, futures downbeat despite yesterday's positive finish. Traders will be digesting Google's parent company, Alphabet's numbers today, as the results were released after the close of markets yesterday. And finally, in Asia, those stocks on track to end the day mixed as investors assess U.S.-China relations.
All right, thank you for that. That's Ntauleng Lechela, always with her eye on the money for you here on The Morning Brief.
Santam can cover your car in just 2 minutes. That's faster than staring into your fridge, convinced there's nothing to eat, with hopes that something new magically appears. Only to end up ordering the same meal you had yesterday. Get your car covered in just 2 minutes so you can live in the moment, not in the worry. Visit santam.co.za. Santam, this is freedom. Santam is an authorized FSP, a licensed non-life insurer and controlling company for its group companies.
President Cyril Ramaphosa will on Thursday, 6th of February, deliver the 2025 State of the Nation Address at the Cape Town City Hall. Tune in to the meeting point with Koketso Sachane with a special broadcast from 6 p.m., bringing you blow-by-blow coverage at the 2025 State of the Nation Address.
SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
19 stories of the day. Hashtag The Morning Brief.
That's me and Zelma Tsibi there. Getting ahead of myself. And occasionally she gets ahead of herself as well. But it's all good. 18 minutes to 9. Let's turn to this now. The Johannesburg City Parks and Zoo Agency says the West Park Cemetery, one of the city's most historic burial sites, will soon be at full capacity. As a result, the burial site, which has been operating since 1956, is now only allowing 15 burials per week in order to manage space. The Johannesburg City Parks and Zoo says it is addressing the issue with great care and consideration for the immediate and long-term needs of residents. Let's speak now to Jenny Moodley, who is the spokesperson of the Johannesburg City Parks and Zoo. So it's a significant moment, is it not, Jenny? The approach to full capacity of West Park Cemetery. It's one of the big ones that service the area of Johannesburg.
That's correct. Good morning. Yes, certainly we have 42 cemeteries in the city, 39 of which have reached full capacity. And West Park, being fairly popular with many residents, has reached full capacity, with only we allowing 15 burials per week. And we anticipate that by in May, that cemetery would have reached full capacity. There will still be space on the Jewish section and, of course, in the Muslim section, but both these communities are mindful that that too is fast depleting. And the alternative cemeteries, which will be Olifants Place Cemetery in the far south of the city, the Waterfall Cemetery in Midrand, and of course the Diepsloot Cemetery in the north of the city, are the three available cemeteries where we have primary burial space for new burials.
So you're saying 39 out of 42 of the cemeteries across the city are either at full capacity or approaching full capacity. Do we have a burial space problem in the city?
No, currently we do not. We have adequate burial space. However, we'd like to continue to encourage residents to consider alternative burial options. We know that there is, in some communities, not everybody is receptive to cremations. So we have been speaking to the traditional leaders, funeral directors, and various other stakeholders, and they've advised that the second burial or the third burial in the same family-held grave is encouraged, and so this is what the city is doing. We're saying we can absolutely be using our existing cemeteries, including the 39 that have reached full capacity, for second and third burials, and we're encouraging communities to consider that. It's a dignified way of bidding farewell to your loved ones. It absolutely provides us a central space to conduct traditional prayers and so on. So our call to action to residents is please consider the second and third burial options. And at the same time, we'd like to reinforce that Joburg's got adequate burial space in the city.
Yeah, so you do have a cemeteries and burials draft bylaw that is out for public comment, and I guess as a way of public service, we could highlight that. But to what extent do you see uptake of the options you just mentioned? Let's park the issue of cremation, because I don't think I think that's always been there. But let's talk about the reburials, the second and third burials. I was reading the draft bylaw talking about if you want to do these waiting periods between doing a second and a third burial. How much uptake is there? How much reception? How receptive are residents of Joburg to these alternatives?
Well, fortunately, we're finding that residents have been taking up the second and the third option. So we're finding lots of reopenings, particularly in historical cemeteries like your Avalon Cemetery, which has reached full capacity. We're finding that families would prefer to lay their loved ones in close proximity to grandparents and parents and so on. So we're finding that there's many reopenings in those particular cemeteries, similar for cemeteries in Alexandra, which, as we know, has reached full capacity for some time now. So lots of reopenings taking place there. And even though there is this stigma attached to cremations, we're finding that too, there has been a number of people that are taking up these options. So again, we're glad that a number of families are finding solace in reopening graves, and this is what we are encouraging at the same time.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time this morning. That's Jenny Moodley, spokesperson for the Johannesburg City Parks and Zoo, talking to me about the issue of burials across the city of Joburg.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
All right, so let me turn to this conversation we had lined up for you a bit earlier on. It has to do with social media. And in the recent days, you've seen social media being abuzz following the social media posts made by the U.S. President Donald Trump about South Africa. And we've also seen a social media war of words of sorts between South African President Cyril Ramaphosa and his Rwandan counterpart Paul Kagame, citizens of this country and others also weighing in on those debates. Let's bring in Soli Muweng, who is a reputation management strategist. Good morning to you, Soli. We wanted to have this conversation with you about the increasing role of social media, one in diplomacy, but also in official communication by various governments, as well as being a tool for public engagement. Do these events, as I just cited, highlight its increasing role in those spheres?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, social media is a platform, Simelane, and people, it's a platform that can be used for good. It's a platform that can be used for bad, but it's a platform that's here to stay. Or the various social media platforms, of course, there are several of them. They can be used just like if you have a gun, you can use it for good or for bad. If you have a lot of things, a car, you can use it for good or for bad. And it must be, there must be rules, of course. There must be rules of engagement. Who determines those rules is the most difficult part, because different parts of the world, for instance, if we take WhatsApp is not acceptable in all countries of the world. If you go to China, you have to use WeChat, and which is very, very much under the eye of the Chinese intelligence, the Chinese government. So it can be a tool, but that's also used to prevent freedom of expression. We've seen in some countries like Iran and elsewhere where there's citizens uprisings because they're not happy with one thing or the other. The government will simply switch off access to these platforms. But it's a platform that people need, especially for democracy in countries where there are no other outlets for people to express their unhappiness, their aspirations. We cannot not have social media.
So tell me what's your best thinking about how we counter such phenomena as disinformation that happens a lot on social media, but also ensure that, we guard against echo chambers where you basically just want people who are like-minded, people who will agree with you, and everyone else who doesn't agree is rubbished. Those pitfalls, how do we guard against those while using social media?
Yeah, those are the dangers, Simelane. You're absolutely correct. Look, we live in an era of short attention spans. People don't have time, to read long documents, which is unfortunate because then they make very important decisions based on headlines, on a tweet, on very little scant information. The other thing is people don't have time to go around comparing, in terms of misinformation, disinformation. When you're in an echo chamber, somebody, and you've been there for a while, you believe everything that gets shared there. You don't need to go and check, or you don't see the need to go and check whether the veracity of whatever is. I think we need to just encourage the culture of people reading as widely as possible and checking, and checking the origin of the story, asking questions. If you're not sure, don't just post as if it's a factual matter. I do. I mean, I'm very much active on social media. When I get stuff, the origin of which I'm not sure, if I want to share it, I'll ask a question rather than say, "Wow, look at what's happening." I'll say, "Please, someone tell me if this is true."
Yeah.
And I can tell you this. Usually, somebody will come up and say, "That's not true," or somebody could say, "It's not true," even if it's true. There's also both sides exist.
Yeah.
Somebody who would be embarrassed by the truth of what is being shared might come up and say that's a false news, fake news. We've seen politicians do that. So, but it's still very important to read as widely as possible and to obtain as many opinions as possible, not to make easy decisions on scant information. That's the key.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time and your insights this morning. That's Solly Muweng, who is a reputation management strategist.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Two protest actions around the Northwest Province this morning. One is at Sunway. That's the extension of Van der Hof linking Pretoria through to Hartbeespoort. If you're heading that way, there'll be some disruption. And the N4 is a full closure at Bapong, Majikaneng, because of protesting. So if you're driving, I believe, towards Pretoria, you'll come off at Moinoi. And if you're going out towards Rustenburg, you'll be taken off at the 512 exit and rerouted through some construction zones at the bottom of Majikaneng as well. So a morning of disruption. You may want to just delay travel until that situation has been sorted out, resolved, and the N4 has been reopened. Joburg side this morning, N1 north and south to the Winnie Mandela off-ramp slow. Lights are down in Rivonia and 12th. That's quite heavy this morning. And there's a bit of a backlog going on both ways into Buccleuch, the N3 north and the N1 north, linking on through Buccleuch to the N1 towards Mid-Ram. Those highways getting quite busy. Looks like a problem on the ramp there. Still with that crash at the bottom of Fields Hill, just slowing traffic that is Pinetown bound, arriving from Kloof. A stationary truck stuck before Market Road, quite a heavy queue into Pietermaritzburg this morning. And Cape Town, we've got some police on the N1 into town before Okavango Road. It remains pretty heavily backed from Justenburg, Kraaifontein side. N7 North Goodwood up to a very busy Bosmansdam Road is unusual, and the highways going in towards central Cape Town still very busy. It's a busy, high volume midweek Wednesday. A lot of this is being held up by the mining indaba and the traffic restrictions as you come into the city over the elevated freeway. Yesterday, those main sort of N1, N2 highways into Cape Town stayed busy towards that elevated freeway until about 11 o'clock, so late in the morning until we saw the back end of rush hour. Looks like it's shaping again today. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
SAFM has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that is not harmful, does not amount to hate speech, or contain violence or explicit sex. If you think we are not living up to that code, then you can inform the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. PO Box 142365. Craig Hall 2024. Fax to 011-326-3198 or an email to bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more information, please visit www.bccsa.co.za.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
All right, let me start with this voice note. That's a reflection on the conversation we were having a few minutes ago about burial space in Johannesburg, but also in many other urban centers across the country.
Good morning, Tula. This issue of burying 3 people in one grave is a waste of time. We don't have space. We don't. So I think cremation should be the way to go. Because with cremation, there's no need to expand the cemeteries. Yeah. That's Tiger Masemola.
Thank you for that. I hear that, as you were hearing there from Jenny, that culturally, some people are not there yet. But I get the point that you are making, that on a scale, your preference is cremation more than it is burying, having 2 or 3 people buried in the same grave as is being encouraged by the city of Johannesburg. Let me listen to one or two others. Earlier on, I had a conversation with Tony Leon, and we were talking about the man that is tipped to be appointed as U.S. President Donald Trump's ambassador to South Africa, Joel Pollak. Someone is reflecting on that conversation.
Morning, Thulasizwe Simelane, Cape Town. It's funny how we give more airtime to people like Tony Leon, who are more aggressive for the development of this country, especially a black person, than who hold for an MK member. You hardly hear MK member on the mainstream news. It's always been either EFF or these people.
Okay, I hear the point you are making, but certain conversations lend themselves for specific types of people. So if you're talking about Joel Pollak and you're trying to predict what his possible appointment would mean for the relationship between the U.S. and South Africa, you are better off talking to someone who has worked with Joe Pollak, who knows him quite closely and would perhaps be able to give you an insight into his politics. But I take the point that you are making when there are other issues, for instance, State of the Nation address, 100% other issues that have to do with policies in our country, a diversity of political voices. I'm with you on that 100%.
Good morning, Bratulas, and to all SAFM listeners. Can you ask Mr. Chiwa there that I'm wondering now as I'm seated here that after they find these illegal connections, then what do they do about it? Are there any investigations being done or what? Because if these people can make these illegal connections and then they disconnect them, then it means they'll simply go back and redo them again. So what's the proper plan there?
Yeah. No, I hear you 100%. And that's partly what contributes to these issues of what they call non-revenue water losses, leaks, illegal connections, and the likes. You are absolutely right. A permanent and more sustainable solution other than a mere disconnection is what is needed. Mike in Newlands, let me take a call from you. You want to talk to me about Donald Trump this morning. Good morning.
Good morning to this. I do indeed. Two things. First of all, I think the one thing as South Africans we must acknowledge is that Trump and his Republican Party puts USA first. In South Africa, the ANC puts itself first and the country second. This is probably, obviously we've had this stated many times by our two presidents. So that's the first problem we have. We're up against a man who's putting his country first. The second thing is that I don't know quite where actually this is going, because is he trying to protect the Afrikaners who he believes that their land will be expropriated by the current government? Or is it because that Trump might be actually going for Ramaphosa himself? And of course his NEC guys, because as we know, they are hugely corrupt. We've got a massive corruption on that scale. We've currently got the Minister of Justice being investigated for corruption. And if we look at President himself, I think he's worth $450 million. That's our president. He owns 31 properties. Now, so there's a big issue there as well. I think that probably that is where Trump is going. And finally, Trump is also rightly doing what he should do, because Trump has been told by our president, Thulasizwe, on more than one occasion, you keep your USA and we'll keep our South Africa. He said, you stay out of our business and we'll stay out of yours. Now, all America's doing is saying, guys, we gave you $8 billion. If you don't want it, that's fine. And don't tell us you haven't got the money to Thulasizwe, because I've just seen that $4.3 billion went back to Treasury. And I just noticed as well, we spent R1 billion taking Israel to court. So clearly we've got the money. So we do not need American money at all. So I think we must call it a day with America. Thank them very much, because we haven't bothered to even do that. And then we get on. And if we need the money, we go to Iraq or Iran. And I'm sure they'll come up with a catch. Thanks.
Thank you for that. Mike in Newlands there, raising quite a number of points. The point about Trump putting America first, that was what people expected, right? And in his first few days in the presidency, he is meddling everywhere. But I suppose you could say, along the line of argument that Mike is pushing, that behind all of that, perhaps there's an issue of putting America first. Then he said a lot of things, and I won't be able to respond to all of them. Just to clarify, when he says the Minister of Justice is being investigated, he's talking about the previous Minister of Justice, not the current Minister of Justice. But a lot more was said in that conversation. I can't respond to it all, but I've got to thank you for listening. AB, I'm sorry I was not able to take your call. You were holding for quite some time. Let's see if we can talk to you tomorrow. Thank you for listening, and thank you for your engagement. The Talking Point with Kathy Mutlatlana is up next here on SAFM after the news.
In our top stories, calls for Motshekga to resign following deaths of 14 soldiers, and President Ramaphosa urged to address unemployment. Good morning. There are growing calls for the Defence Minister Angie Motshekga to resign after the deaths of 14 South African soldiers in the eastern DRC. Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Defence grilled Motshekga on the report she gave about the deaths. The soldiers' bodies will be repatriated today. EFF MP and committee member Carl Niehaus lashed out at the Defence Minister and SNDF generals, calling on them to resign immediately.
No, I'm just pointing to the minister. Okay, let me leave my hand down. When are you minister? You get threatened easily, minister. When are you minister? And when are you chief of the South African National Defence Force resigning? You should resign today. And when are the rest of your generals who were playing golf at Copper Leaf while our soldiers were dying? When are they going to resign?
Non-profit organization Save South Africa has called for tangible solutions to the country's high unemployment, which officially stood at 32.1% but 45.5% among the youth in last year's third quarter. The organization's call comes as anticipation builds for President Cyril Ramaphosa's 2025 State of the Nation address tomorrow. Last month, steel producer ArcelorMittal also announced it would shut down its long steel plants, resulting in the loss of at least 3,500 jobs. Save South Africa's Communications Director Tebogo Mashilompane.
We expect the president to be clear when coming to issues of unemployment. But we are saying before we can even go to unemployment, deal with the people that are already employed. Because we mentioned the fact that the CWP workers, 67,000, they're facing job cuts. We've got also now recently the health community workers also, they're facing job cuts. And then we've got teachers. So we are saying, the president, what are you going to do? Because if you cut those that are in the system, it means that those who are unemployed will not get the opportunity.
Angry residents of Lowe's Creek near the Lily Mine in Barberton and Mpumalanga have embarked on a violent protest. They've blockaded the main road in the area. The protest comes ahead of the commemoration of the deaths of 3 former mine employees, Pratin Kambole, Yvonne Mnisi and Solomon Yarenda, who were trapped underground when the mine collapsed. They had been in a container used as a lamp room at the time. The protesters are accusing political parties of using the commemoration to garner votes. Rea Vaya has conceded there is miscommunication among stakeholders, resulting in confusion among employees who are concerned about their safety. Rea Vaya has confirmed its bus operations will not be resuming today. Operations were suspended yesterday following the fatal shooting of 2 bus drivers in separate incidents in Soweto on Monday. Shop steward at Rea Vaya, Rasi Mahi Matibula.
Currently, buses are not moving because we receive different messages from different stakeholders. For instance, the mayor sent a communication which is different to the MMC's communication. There were a lot of meetings yesterday. That is the disadvantage of having meetings different places and different people. So they take different decisions which contradict
and confuse a lot of employees.
And finally, Swedish Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson says 10 people have been killed in the worst mass shooting in the country's history. 4 other people have been wounded. The incident happened at a community college yesterday. The BBC's Ellie Price reports.
The gunman opened fire at lunchtime, targeting a college for adult learners which shares a site with other schools for children.